Good morning, everyone. Welcome into a new week of Sports 56 mornings on what will be another oppressively hot day. It was a extremely hot weekend. We're talking about heat advisories that are in effect and will be for quite some time. Unfortunately, the bearer of bad news weather-wise. But we have a lot to get into today on the program, including the end of the NBA season, although a new season begins on Wednesday with the first round of the NBA draft. And, of course, we are extremely saddened by the passing of Fred Smith that we'll talk about in just a second. It is a dark day, certainly, for the city of Memphis. Welcome into Sports 56 Mornings on this Monday, June 23rd, 2025. We're live and local, as we are each and every day. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, and Elijah Seegers with you. We're broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studios. Family Leisure, where family and fun come together. By now, you know, for all your pool needs, but really for needs all year long, Family Leisure, all types of incredible games and billiards tables. That's where I got my billiards table from, Family Leisure. But for the summer, you're talking about pools and hot tubs and swim spas and cold plunge tubs, patio furniture sets, and much, much more. And when you purchase there, you mention this ad, you get free installation. 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40. So already 77 degrees. It's going to get to 95 today. The heat index will take you into triple digits. Scattered thunderstorms developing this afternoon, about a 50% chance of rain. Then tonight, 76 for your low. Stray shower thunderstorm is possible. That'll give way to mainly clear skies overnight. And then tomorrow, 95 for your high, about a 45% chance of rain as well. Every day you get the oppressive heat and humidity, there's always a chance that you could get a pop-up rainstorm or thunderstorm. That is the case each and every year. Coming up on the program today, as I mentioned, we'll talk a lot about the passing of Fred Smith, what he meant to not only our community but really the world. The former mayor of Memphis, Jim Strickland, who's now the dean of the University of Memphis Law School, he will join us to talk about his legacy at 8:05. Plenty of NBA talk, the draft coming up, the Grizzlies now in the first round. Michael Wallace will join us at 9:25 from Grind City Media to talk all things Grizzlies and all things NBA. Obviously, the season wrapping up last night. The Oklahoma City Thunder are your new NBA champions. Kevin Durant is dealt, and as I thought, dealt into the Western Conference, so he stays in the West, going from Phoenix to Houston. We'll talk about the ramifications of that. Also, Major League Baseball from the weekend, the College World Series. It's over, and LSU has won for a second time in 3 years and a sixth straight win for the SEC. We'll take your calls and texts on the Sissy's Log Cabin listener lines at 901-360-8255. Good morning, welcome in. And kick back and relax as we got 3 hours of scintillating sports talk coming your way. Good morning.
Good morning.
You were out in the elements all weekend long playing golf in this oppressive heat. How was it?
It was fantastic. Down at Holly Springs at Kirkwood. Played 27 holes on Friday, 27 holes on Saturday. And,
man, you are crazy.
It was hot, but yeah, it was a good time. Always fun down there. So. Found our way through it. Made sure.
54 holes of golf over the weekend in this heat, man. Good for you. Elijah, I'm going to guess you didn't play 54 holes of golf over the weekend.
No, I didn't quite get that amount of action in, but I don't mind the heat either, so I spent a lot of time outside as well. Had a good weekend, and man, what an eventful weekend it was.
It really was, and we'll get into the finals here in just a moment, the Kevin Durant trade. Obviously, it's a quick turnaround as the season wraps up. Couldn't go any longer than that, right? 7 games in the NBA Finals, but you turn around and the draft is here and then free agency's upon us. So we got a lot to get into. But we start with the news from yesterday. It's jarring news when you hear about the passing of an absolute legend, and that's not hyperbole. And you can certainly make a legitimate argument. The most important Memphian ever. If this guy is not taught in your history books here in Memphis for local history, then something's wrong. I don't know what the curriculum, is in the city schools, but if they're not learning about Fred Smith, then something's wrong. But Fred Smith passing away yesterday at the age of 80, creating an incredible legacy. The importance to him, as I mentioned, not only in our community, but all around the world, is amazing how important this guy. He revolutionized the shipping industry and did it as a representative of our area who decided to stay here and build the world headquarters here and keep everything in Memphis, a civic leader, a corporate citizen. And his ties to sports are everywhere, from the University of Memphis to the NFL to the PGA and on and on and on. It is sad. I hope that everybody recognizes, and I think they do, the importance of this man and that family.
Yes, certainly just shocking. It was kind of just sitting there Saturday night. We're all kind of hanging around out doing, and all of a sudden just happened to look at my phone and I'm like, whoa. Just not the news expect. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine anybody who could have had more impact on this city than what I mean, just his imprint is everywhere, from sports and out in sports and outside. I mean, just constantly giving back in so many different areas, so many different ways. I mean, it's just a really, really sad thing to get that news, and he will certainly be missed. That is for sure, in this city and well beyond this city.
Obviously, everybody from the sports world, from the business world, political world, local civic leaders, just regular Joe Q public, took to social media to express their condolences to the family and to talk about the man, the legend. There's the old saying, the man, the myth, the legend. He's not a myth. He is a legend, and he is a great man. And so I'm going to just read a couple of them. This comes from the University of Memphis and University of Memphis Senior Vice President and Director of Athletics, Ed Scott. As we know, the University of Memphis and that athletic department meant an awful lot to Fred. We are deeply grateful to Fred Smith and his family for their unwavering support of Memphis athletics. Our thoughts and prayers are with his loved ones, including the entire FedEx family, during this difficult time. Fred was more than a visionary businessman. He was an icon and a servant leader whose impact on the Memphis community is immeasurable. Without his foresight and extraordinary generosity, neither Memphis Athletics nor the city of Memphis would be what they are today. On a personal note, over the past 11 months, Fred has been both a mentor and a friend to me. Tiger Nation will forever remember Fred Smith and the legacy he leaves behind. We look forward to honoring his remarkable contributions in the days ahead. From the Memphis Grizzlies, from Grizzlies chairman and owner Robert Pera. On behalf of the entire Memphis Grizzlies organization, I want to express our deepest condolences to both the Smith and greater FedEx families. Fred Smith has been a driving force in the Memphis community since day one, and his endless contributions as a civic leader and corporate citizen are a part of an incredible legacy that will be remembered in our community and country forever. He will be deeply missed. That's just, again, a comment from Robert Pera, representing the Memphis Grizzlies, from Dr. Ed Scott, representing the University of Memphis. These are endless. They go on and on and on.
Well, certainly just, I mean, with the University of Memphis, I can't have any guess whatsoever where the University of Memphis would be, especially with their sports teams, without Fred Smith and the millions upon millions of dollars that he has put towards that university and their athletics. Obviously, right now with the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium renovation going on, and that $50 million plus the NIL money, but just going way back and throughout the years, all of the money and support that he has given that university. And then on the Grizzly side, and the Grizzlies wouldn't be here, I would assume, without FedEx. So, and without Fred Smith. So it's, just on the sports scene here in town, can't imagine what it would look like without Fred Smith.
And it's not just the sports scene locally. Fred Smith's impact on the National Football League at one time, not recently, was a part owner of the Washington Redskins. Obviously, what we have now in golf is because of Fred Smith. We have a FedEx Cup. It is a playoff in golf that takes place, with Memphis being one of the stops with the best golfers in the world because of Fred Smith, the Smith family, and FedEx. Internationally, tennis events, Grand Prix racing they've been into, NASCAR. How many times did we have the fortune of having Denny Hamlin on the show because he won Daytona 500s in the FedEx machine? But that's just the sports end of it. Civically, from a entrepreneur to helping, I'm sure, a lot of people that we don't even hear about in this city. Now, FedEx goes on. Richard Smith, who is also a major backer of the University of Memphis, that relationship, I can guarantee you, will continue. The relationship with the Grizzlies will continue. That will go on and on and on. But it all began with a vision that people probably laughed at, and you've probably seen the Fred Smith story and how it came to be. But I wonder how many different times, Eli, he could have packed up the bags and took this company somewhere else. I would imagine that there were times when other cities maybe did a little tampering and enticed him to bring the business there. I don't know if it ever got close. I don't have details. This is just me thinking out loud. But he put his roots in Memphis. That's where the family is from, and the kids going to school here and growing up here, and never wavered on that. And I can't even imagine where we would be as a community, as a city, without FedEx.
Yeah, I don't know what the airport would be like if you didn't have FedEx and what they do out there. Just the thousands and I don't know how many jobs there are here in town alone with FedEx. It's the impact on this city. It's impossible to overstate what he and FedEx have meant and continue to mean to this city. It's literally impossible to overstate that.
The Memphis and Shelby County Airport Authority will introduce a plan to rename Memphis's airport in honor of the aviator, businessman, and hometown hero Fred Smith. I'm surprised that hadn't already happened.
Well, he didn't want it. He wouldn't let him.
Oh, okay. As long as the family is backing it, right? As long as the family has no problem with it, this is a no-brainer. An absolute no-brainer. If you were watching the PGA Tour yesterday, the final round of the Travelers, Jim Nantz and the folks at CBS having the connections, of course, with, I'm going to forget his name now, the producer-director of the CBS broadcasts. Sellers Shy, a great Memphian in his own right. They had a nice tribute during the broadcast to Fred. And I think they had a moment of silence right before they even got going for the final round. So this is a dark day. It's a very, very sad day. If you want to comment on the legacy of Fred Smith and what he meant to us here in Memphis, text in. Hit us up with your texts on the Sissy's Log Cabin listener lines. I don't want to go ahead and take calls and all that, but I do want to give you the opportunity to express your opinion, if you'd like to, via the text. I mean, there was a lot of people that I texted back and forth, and a lot of people I could have brought on. I didn't want to do just, even though it merits it, 3 hours of just talking about this sad news. But as far as having somebody talk about him, I thought it was a perfect person to have on in the former Mayor Strickland, who has dealt with Fred in many different capacities, and now, of course, being the dean of the University of Memphis Law School and the connections to the University of Memphis. But 80 years old, I mean, that's, some people, that's old. No, it's not. And I don't know if he had been sick. I had not heard anything, but it did kind of knock you out when you hear something like that.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's just, it just kind of was not the thing in any way, shape, or form that I was expecting to see when I looked at my phone to see that he had passed away, and then turned on TV to just kind of get more information. And it just, again, it's just very, very sad stuff for that family, a very big family. And certainly we send our thoughts and prayers to them and to everybody, obviously, again, who was, obviously all the people at FedEx, again, so many people that work at FedEx, everything else, that entire FedEx family, everybody, certainly in any way, shape, or form. If you live in the city of Memphis, you have been affected by Fred Smith one way or another.
Just Friday, the University of Memphis had a press conference to talk about the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium renovations. And Dr. Ed Scott, he addressed the media, and they had still photos and things of that, designs updated, but they also had a video, which was tremendous. And everything seems to be going really, really well. If you didn't hear that over the weekend, it's going to be condensed into 2 phases. That's going to increase the budget to $226.5 million, but they said they're right on target. They have raised $31 million so far to match the $50 million from the gift from the Smith family that you alluded to earlier. They've added that north end tunnel that's going to be a part of it, which is going to be something that will give them the opportunity to host a number of big-time concerts, because now they can get those semi-trucks in. They talked about a suspended kitchen on the 200 level that's added an LED video board, which will span 260 feet. So it's going extremely well. And again, why? A big part of it, maybe the main reason, is because of the Smith family, and in particular, Fred Smith. And this was Friday. And then we get the news. Was it Saturday night you said you heard it?
Yeah, Saturday night.
Saturday night. So again, just that quickly, things change, but it doesn't change, again, with the way Memphis, whether it's the Tigers or the Grizzlies or everything else in this community, is still going to have the backing of that great company, FedEx, and it's all because of one Fred Smith. Town Village Audubon Park is senior living in today's world, offering more options to fit your needs more than ever before. They're located at 950 Cherry Road, just off Park Avenue in the heart of East Memphis. They're dedicated to the long-term satisfaction and the quality of life for their residents. All they ask is that you're 55 years of age or older. So if you're looking at your golden years or the golden years of a loved one in your family, make sure you check out Town Village Audubon Park. Give them a call. They'll answer any question you have. You could set up a tour at 901-537-0002 or just go online to townvillageaudubonpark.com. Short-term respite stays available, monthly options as well, independent living, everything you need to continue to enjoy life to its fullest. Some of the modern amenities and services they provide include monthly rental with no buy-in. Apartments include full kitchen, washer and dryer, excluding efficiency apartments, all-inclusive resort-style dining with multiple venues, bi-weekly housekeeping, outpatient therapy. They have a community social area that features a fitness center, a home theater, whirlpool, indoor pool, fruit stand, 24-hour pantry, bistro, Village Nook convenience store, beauty salon, library, computer center, on and on and on. Plus 5 landscape courtyards, resident gardening areas, a dog park, and gated parking for all their visitors. It is unreal as far as the services and amenities that they provide for each and every one of their residents. It's Town Village Audubon Park, 901-537-0002, or online at townvillageaudubonpark.com. We are just underway on a Monday. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
South, if you're looking for a great deal, get to Gossett Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat for the employee pricing plus sales event. 2025 Dodge Hornet GT. Buy it for $26,457 or $344.68 a month. That's over $5,000 off MSRP. 2025 Jeep Compass Latitude 4-wheel drive. Over $6,000 off MSRP at $23,541 or $297 a month. And 2025 Ram 1500 Tradesman Crew Cab 5'7" box rear-wheel drive. Over $11,000 off MSRP at $36,869 or just $511.87 a month or 1.9 for 72's available. So drive past the rest and come to the best. Gossett Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat on the Pipe or online at GossettMotorCars.net.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motorcars.
This traffic brought to you by Raleigh Tire Auto Service, your local family-owned business for over 60 years.
Good morning, T-Dot scattered up and down. 240 out here assisting with a couple of disabled vehicles. Last time we saw them was over around Mill Branch. It's building already 385 Bill Morris Parkway, continuing inbound as you work your way past Kirby, all the way where it merges on there to 240 up by Mount Moriah. South Memphis traffic still in pretty good shape right now as it builds northbound on 55 coming up through South Haven. Weimer's Jewelry is your diamond engagement ring headquarters this bridal season, so stop by and see them this week and shop local at Weimer's Jewelry on Highway 64. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Good morning on Sports 56. Gaskin and Eli Savoy.
We are celebrating the life and legacy of Fred Smith, who passed away over the weekend at the age of 80, the founder of FedEx and the importance of FedEx not only here in this community but around the world. And we'll have much more on the legacy of Fred when the former mayor of Memphis, Jim Strickland, joins us at 8:05.
Some text here on the Sissy's Log Cabinet listener line. John from Covington said Fred Smith was a very special man. Got a chance to meet him several times. Brad texted, says, my wife worked for Fred Smith for 25 years since he purchased Kinko's, now FedEx office. Devastated, as one of her locations was basically across the street from him in Germantown. Max says Fred Smith will be missed. He's one of one. Raider Corey says, my wife had been an employee of FedEx for over 30 years. Although as a paralegal professional, although we knew he was experiencing some health concerns when we saw the news Saturday evening, we were both in disbelief. She called me this morning when she arrived at work, said she got sad and teary-eyed when she saw the flag at half staff at the headquarters. Yeah, I mean, it's, again, for those people that has worked for him for so many years, and the impact and everything else, and just again the pure amount of people employed. I have no clue. I can't even guess what the number is in town of people who are employed by FedEx here in Memphis, and again across the world. Just continue to add to that, but just here in Memphis, I have no idea what that number of jobs is that FedEx creates in this city.
I think the flags everywhere should be half staff here in Memphis, no matter what business you may have or even your home, and you can do that just, to honor Fred. But, yeah, the people that have come to this city from everywhere around the world, and you're right, there's still, I don't even know how many, I don't even have a guess at how many people around the world work for FedEx, but just people that work here in the city that came to the corporate headquarters to live and work. Just everyone seems to know somebody either in their family or friends that work for FedEx. I came here for television, and yet I can rattle off a bunch of names of people that I have either worked with or worked indirectly with in television or radio, or from the University of Memphis who were in sports media or were part of the newspapers, whether it's the commercial period, whatever the case may be, that have moved on to work for FedEx, have great jobs with FedEx, whether it's FedEx or whether it's St. Jude or Le Bonheur or whether it's International Paper. These AutoZone, these companies are extremely important for the city and the community. Without them, you're right down the crapper. And I know we've lost, I think, population. Certainly, a lot of people have made their trek east to Nashville, and that population has gone up. But without these companies, I don't know where it would be. All right. We'll move on for a bit. We'll come back, as I said, when the former mayor, Jim Strickland, joins us to talk about Fred Smith. Obviously, a lot going on. We have the official end of the collegiate year. The 24-25 collegiate year is now done with LSU winning the College Baseball World Series. It is now complete. The NBA season also done with the Oklahoma City Thunder knocking off the Indiana Pacers, winning the NBA title 4-3. So both concluding on Sunday. Of course, the NBA will rev back up on Wednesday with the draft, round 1, and then round 2 on Thursday. Just a real quick note from the college sports world. LSU winning. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, time permitting, but that's 2 in 3 years for LSU. That's 7 straight for the SEC as far as college baseball World Series titles. They beat Coastal Carolina 2-0. We'll get into the whole ejection of the skipper for Coastal Carolina later on, but 37 different titles are battled for each year in collegiate sports. I guess it varies if a sport is added or dropped or whatever, but there's 37 Division I sports championships that teams vie for. Would you have a guess as to how many from the SEC?
I know a good chunk of them. I don't know how many that would be because certainly don't know in some of those smaller sports who wins. I don't know.
And that's the thing.
I'm not sure who's winning in rifle. I don't. The SEC probably did, but I don't know.
West Virginia. West Virginia won a rifle. 7 from the SEC. I mean, you think right off the top, you go, man, they had to win like 25 sports titles. 7. And Texas has 2 of them, and Oklahoma has 1. So the newbies. Georgia has 2 of them. So 7 from the SEC out of 37 national championships. But they do have Florida winning men's basketball, so that's one of the biggies. All right, so we were deprived last night. We were gypped last night. A Game 7, which hadn't been staged in an NBA final since 2016, we had that. We all sat down to watch the game in Oklahoma City with a revved-up crowd. Indiana going toe-to-toe with the Thunder, who put together one of the great regular seasons. Game starts out back and forth. Looks like we're going to have a barn burner, possibly down to the wire, maybe even overtime. Who knows? As they battle for the NBA title. Tied at 16, Tyrese Halliburton, who we know had the bad calf, had already hit 3 triples. He was off to a blazing start, and then he went down. And from that point on, while Indiana battled and came back, and T.J. McConnell did his thing in the third quarter, they just did not have enough. And Oklahoma City would win it 103-91 to win their first ever NBA title. Now, for the franchise, you can go back to Seattle. They won a title in Seattle. But in Oklahoma City, they're first. Grizzlies fans, I'm sure, are like, that should be us. That should be us. Small market versus small market put together a memorable 7 games. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Bill Russell MVP winner, put together a memorable season. He won just about everything. He was the regular season MVP. He was the finals MVP. He was incredible. But this game turned on Tyrese Halliburton's injury, which at first, even Mike Breen and company, the speculation was, well, it's a calf injury. But when he went down and started banging that hardwood, boy, I thought to myself, wow, could this be? I thought it could be Achilles, but then nobody said anything until the report from Lisa Salters through Tyrese's father, John Halliburton, that it was an Achilles. Unreal.
Well, I mean, for him, yeah, it's just awful to see something like that. But it was this, unfortunately, that is the risk you take playing with a calf injury. And it's somewhat ironic that on a day that Kevin Durant's name was very much in the NBA news, that this happens, because Kevin Durant, exact same thing. Tried to play in the NBA Finals with a calf strain, tore his Achilles doing so. Others have done it as well. I mean, there is no. I was actually just having a conversation last week about somebody with him playing, that you do have to be careful, because with playing with a bad calf can lead to an Achilles. Didn't think it would happen. But,
and why,
but
you're not a doctor, but why does that happen?
I assume it's just the weakness in those. I don't know. I have no idea. But it's happened to others. Like you're, and that's why people will. A guy might sit out a game with a calf strain. It's the NBA Finals. How are you sitting out with a calf strain? Well, this is the thing, obviously, that can happen when you have a calf strain and try and play through it. And we've now seen Durant do it, and now here goes Tyrese Halliburton. And as soon as they showed the replay, it was obvious. You could watch the back of the leg, and it was.
That's what I thought.
It was
but
clear that it was an Achilles.
But I wasn't about to go on Twitter and tweet. I mean, I was waiting for them to say something, and they didn't.
And again, you can just watch the pain he's in. Like
right.
That's obviously serious. Back of the leg. They show the replay. Like, okay, well, that's not good. And now. Yeah, I can't even imagine. And, SGA talked about it afterward. Like, to be in that moment, like, it's the biggest game that you could ever. This is what you dream about. Like, every player would dream about your Game 7 of the NBA Finals. and to go down in that way and have that opportunity just ripped away from you. I just can't even imagine what that's like emotionally for him at that time, let alone the physical pain that you're dealing with and everything else. It's awful. And it just makes you like, and I mean, kudos to the Pacers, because that would be easy to just let that, you're like, what the hell? Like, what are we going to do now? Like, just here we are in this moment, and now we've just lost this leader, and and for them to perform the way they did after he went out, and to lead at halftime was really, kind of shocking. Like, I was like, I can't believe they're doing this. Now, they ran out of gas a little bit, and again, eventually you're just dealing with a team that's really good that was probably not going to lose the game on their home floor. They just don't lose. They certainly don't lose 2 games in a row. They don't lose at home, all that. But to hang around and do what they did was really, really impressive. But Oklahoma City ends up winning it in probably the way they probably should. It was just their defense forcing turnovers and making life miserable on another team. And that's in a lot of ways. Even though they didn't shoot the ball well, they could always hang their hat on the defensive end. And in that third quarter, they were just absolutely swarming defensively.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. They won with what got them there, defense. Even though they have electric offensive players, they won because of their defense. But getting back to Halliburton, he played in Game 6, didn't play great, but played somewhat effectively, didn't always have the ball in his hand, which I think was by design with that calf injury. And so there wasn't even the question going into Game 7 whether or not he should play. Remember, that was a big thing on ESPN, whether he'd be letting his team down if he's not 100% and he goes out there and plays that whole thing, and then he played the whole game and they won. So nobody was talking about whether or not he should go in Game 7. So I don't want hindsight now. He should. This was freakish because you had, again, he's laboring a bit with the calf. He's not 100%. And somehow, again, maybe a doctor can call and explain that has led to these type of injuries. But now you're talking about an Achilles, which will probably keep him out of all next season, right? That's what they say about these Achilles injuries. And ironically, you now have 3 stud players from the Eastern Conference who all suffered Achilles injuries, all wear the number 0, which is freaky. Jason Tatum, Dame Lillard, and Tyrese Halliburton. And who knows about the 25-26 season with those 3 guys.
Yeah, it's the East. You look
Curse
around
of
the
the
East, the Knicks, and you see why probably in a lot of ways Orlando was willing to give up what they were to get Desmond Maine. Like, you look at the East, you're like, hey, and that's obviously before Halliburton and stuff. But it is very much wide open when you're talking about those guys that, again, with Achilles, in all likelihood, probably going to miss the entire season next year. Maybe you can figure out a way to come back late, whatever. But it certainly puts a whole different look at the East and how you kind of rank the teams going into next year when you're talking about the injuries that are out there now just off of those 3 Achilles injuries.
Turnovers, big part of the series. That's because of the swarming Oklahoma City defense, the anticipation. There was one pass by McConnell. Alex Caruso played it like a defensive back, like jumping the routes and taking it the other way. They're just so good, and they're all good. I thought the minutes that Casey Mitchell provided were fantastic defensively.
Casey Wallace?
Casey Wallace, what'd I say? But the 21 turnovers, with the bulk of them coming in the third quarter, was the downfall. The downfall was the injury to Halliburton. But like you said, they had the lead at halftime. They were playing on emotion. Whatever it is, they found it. Whatever reserve they needed to go to, they were able to get it. And they led at the half, although only a 1-point lead, 48-47. The third quarter was just weird. Oklahoma City came out and they started to make some shots and played more like Oklahoma City. But then defensively, they forced how many turnovers for the Pacers in the third quarter? Was it 8?
I believe it was.
You know, Elijah?
It was 7.
7.
And Oklahoma City had none. That was,
Yeah, 7 turnovers. And as I said, Oklahoma City started to find their range a bit. They didn't have a great shooting night, but they started to find their range a bit. And then Indiana really went, I don't know what they were doing offensively. It was T.J. McConnell basically dribbling through the land of giants and throwing up shots and making them. That was the entire offense. Pascal Siakam was really good in the series. They neutralized him pretty well, especially with Halliburton going down. He only had 16. Miles Turner, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm the only one that seemed to be criticizing him, but to me, a guy that's that good was basically, I thought, a no-show throughout the series. And when they went small, Oklahoma City, and they took Holmgren out, and Hartenstein was on the bench as well, he couldn't even dominate. Miles Turner really did not help them. If it weren't for Neesmith and Nemhard, and then the bench play that they got from, in this particular game, Mathurin with his scoring at 24 points and 13 rebounds, but really McConnell, his consistency throughout the series. Obi Toppin had a bad game, finally had a bad game, but he was good throughout the series. They picked up for Turner because Turner really didn't do anything, and that surprised me. But Oklahoma City, shooting-wise, Shea was 8 of 27. He didn't shoot the ball well, but he got to the free throw line 12 times like he always does, made 11 of them. He had 29 points, but he had 12 assists as well, and he had 5 rebounds. Jalen Williams, really bad shooting night, at least for the first half, came back in the second half. He ends up with 20. I thought Holmgren was great. Chet Holmgren had 18 points, 8 rebounds, 5 blocks. The dude was everywhere. He's getting thrown to the ground, pushed around, coming right back. That's a big dude to be going on the ground as much as he is, but I thought he was a huge factor in that game. And Alex Caruso, of course, doing his thing, 10 points, 3 steals, just playing that smothering defense. He was outstanding, but Kason Wallace was really good. He started some of the games early in the series, but he hit 4 of his 6 shots, 2 of his 3 threes. He had 10 points and played great defense, added 3 steals as well. I think they all came in that third quarter.
The thing with T.J. McConnell, I don't even understand how he does it. Like, you feel like he's going to get his shot blocked like every time he gets in the paint, but he never gets his shot blocked seemingly. Like, he figures out a way, no matter who's on him, when he gets in there, he figures somehow to get the ball up to the rim. And it's crazy watching him. You're like, how does this guy do this? And yet he just continued to do it and do it and do it. You're like, this is like a historically good defensive team, and he's just figuring out a way to get in the lane. And it doesn't matter if Chet Holmgren, who looks like he's like 8 feet taller than him, is standing back there. He still figures out some way to get the ball up to the rim, around him, under him, through him, some way. He gets it to the rim, and he would not miss in that third quarter. I mean, if it hadn't been for McConnell, oh my God, I don't know that this may have been a 40-point blowout. I mean, they basically went an entire quarter where McConnell was the only person who scored for them.
He still ended up a minus 12 because, again, defensively they were getting burned, but 16 points, 6 rebounds. He had 6 rebounds. The guy's like 2'9", 3 assists, a steal, and a block. But they just didn't have enough guys playing at that intensity. Again, I thought Neesmith ended up fouling out, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Nemhard, those guys play really, really hard all the time. But for the Thunder, like every one of those guys play hard all the time. Lou Dort is like a monster. It's like running into a wall when you're going up against him. The bench is so deep. And now it depends on where they go from here with contracts as to how long they can continue at this level. Is there another or multiple NBA titles in their future? There could be. I'm not going to sit here and say there is. We know how ever-changing the NBA is with salary cap and the rosters and things of that nature. Injuries, of course, play a major factor. But if they stay intact and they're all bought in like they really were, with Sam Presti leading the way as the general manager, there could be multiple championships on the horizon. That is a team that will be there unless, again, financially it gets to a point where they have to break it up. And Presti's broken it up before. We know that.
Yeah, I mean they are. They are positioned to be a dynasty. I mean they have everybody next year. I mean it's there's just team options like on anybody. There's nobody that they're losing whose contract is up unless they decide not to pick up an option on somebody. They've got most of them under contract for multiple years. The obvious one is Jalen Williams, who after next year is going to get a massive salary bump. What they want to do with him and how they handle that, that remains to be seen. How much money they're willing to spend. As far as tax, also obviously when you win a championship, it's a little easier. A lot of extra income from this year's run through the playoffs that you can and realize if you realize that you have a championship team. Again, they've got the plethora of first-round picks coming up. And again, they have the 12th pick from last year's draft who hasn't even played yet because he was hurt this year. So not only do they have the first-round picks this year, they have a first-round pick from last year that will be added into this roster. So they are perfectly positioned to go on a run. And again, all these guys are so young. I mean, they're the youngest champion or second youngest champion or whatever all time. You look at that roster, and if you're in the West trying to compete with them, you look at it, that's a tough task because you're like, I'm not sure how we do it. If that team stays healthy, they're going to be really hard to beat. Said it months ago. I just don't see a team in the NBA that could beat them 4 out of 7 games. Going into next year with that same roster, if it's healthy, I'll say the same thing. I don't see how you beat them 4 out of 7 games.
And at the top, you have the regular season MVP, the Western Conference Finals MVP, the Finals MVP. Right now, on top of the basketball world, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Real quick, Jarvo texted and he said, look it up. Other than Willis Reed coming out of the tunnel to play a few minutes versus Lakers in 1970, healthiest teams win. Well, again, that's obvious, but the Thunder were the best team during the regular season. So I don't look at, there were injuries in every series they played this postseason. That's why they won. They won because they were the better team. Yes, they took advantage of teams not being at full strength, but the point's well taken. Yes, if you got guys hurt, it's hard to win. But they were the best team during the regular season. Why wouldn't they be the best team during the postseason if every other team they played were 100%?
Well, they stayed healthy. It's about them staying healthy. Like they didn't deal with any injuries. That's the thing.
No, right.
If that's SGA that happens to last night, we could have a different outcome. Like staying healthy. Again, we've talked about a million times with the Grizzlies. Staying healthy in the NBA playoffs every single year. There is a ton of injuries. Like it just happens. It's going to happen. There's a bit of luck involved of just can we make the run staying healthy? And both of these teams, obviously until last night with Halliburton, or even go back a couple games with Halliburton with the calf portion of it, but they were fully healthy throughout the playoffs. They didn't have to deal with any of that stuff. Every guy played every one of those games, and that's again there's a lot of luck involved in these runs and avoiding injuries. It's the thing that the Grizzlies have never been able to do, basically in their playoff history. But that's the thing. Again, next year if Oklahoma City deals with some injuries, maybe it's not the same result, but if this team is healthy, they're going to be really hard to beat.
No, look, that's obvious. But there are people actually online, like I read yesterday, where they said Oklahoma City got lucky because these other teams had injured players. The point is, yes, they got lucky that they were healthy, but even if those other teams were healthy, the Thunder were the best team. That's the point I'm making. That it doesn't mean if the Grizzlies were at full strength or anybody they played. Look, they went 7 with Denver. They were taken to the tilt against Denver. They still were the best team. And even if those other teams were fully healthy, Oklahoma City beat them all down during the regular season. Why would you think anything differently? You can't just assume if the other teams were healthy, Oklahoma City wouldn't be where they are today. and that is NBA champions. We'll take a timeout. You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Guns, guns, and more guns. Over 700 firearms in stock. Home defense guns, old guns, new guns, used guns, big guns, little guns. Every gun you can think of, Classic Arms has them. All brands like Glock, Sig, Colt, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Browning, Beretta, Benelli, Remington, Winchester, and more. Guaranteed lowest prices in town. Only gun importer in the Mid-South. Free gun inspections and appraisals and free bore sighting for the upcoming deer season. Shop online at ClassicArmsofMemphis.com or visit Classic Arms at 1740 Germantown Parkway behind Quicky's Barbecue in Cordova.
Andy Wise here. For 6 years, I've endorsed Pella Windows and Doors of Memphis and the Mid-South as the standard in affordable luxury. Now get this. Pella just got more affordable. 12 months, no interest, no payments on what Consumer Reports has rated the highest quality windows on the planet, plus 50% off installation. That includes consumer guarantees no other window company will ever match. You have my word. You'll make the wise choice when you choose Pella Windows and Doors of Memphis and the Mid-South.
You gotta dip your chicken strips. Hey, this is Keanu, and this is Tabitha. And a little thing we love about Chick-fil-A chicken strips. Now the different sauces you can dip them in. I like to line up all my favorite sauces so that in every bite I have a different flavor. And with the tenderness of the chicken, the juiciness of it, it's all there. And for me, I like to mix my sauces so I get a little tang, and I get a little sweetness all in one bite. That's what makes it for me. That's what does it for me. That's what I'm saying. It's the summer of Chick-fil-A chicken strips and sauces. Order now on the Chick-fil-A app. And guests pay for their testimonials.
Hey everybody, it's summer, so come and get your new and affordable 2026 All-Star Chevy Equinox right here in Olive Branch. Financing is down to 6.6% for 72 months. All new 2025 Silverados with $6,500 cash back and financing down to 2.9 for 36 months. It's here, so go big and get a new Silverado 2500 HD with financing as low as 3.9 for 60 months and not one payment for 90 days. And your good credit deserves it. If you're law enforcement, first responder, healthcare, military, education, recent grad, you get an extra $500 bonus. And all the certified and pre-owned cars you want, like this Corvette Stingray and more Tahoes and Silverados, then you'll find in one place, anywhere, right here in Olive Branch. If you have any vehicle you want to sell, bring it here to All-Star Chevy in Olive Branch and get the most money for it today. Vacation road trips and all your summer fun begins right here in Olive Branch with our friends at All-Star Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. AllStarAutoGroup.com.
Now back to Sports 56 Morning. On Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
As expected, Kevin Durant dealt before the draft, which will take place Wednesday and Thursday. And to at least no surprise to me, Kevin Durant going to Houston. That's exactly the team I thought he would end up at. I was a little surprised by the loot in return that Brian Gregory and Phoenix received for Durant. It wasn't as much as I thought it would be. Now, you're talking about a guy who's getting up there in age, but certainly a very valuable player who's still at the height of his game. Scores 25 a game, shoots a high percentage, can be a difference maker for 8 teams. But when you look at what Orlando gave Memphis for Desmond Bane, I'm thinking they got a lot better deal than what Phoenix got for Kevin Durant.
That was what people expected that when the Bane trades away. That this was more than they will on paper, especially with the draft capital than Phoenix will be able to get for a Kevin Durant.
The trade particulars, if you missed it, Durant goes to Houston for Jalen Green, our friend Dylan Brooks, the number 10 overall pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. If you recall, Grizzlies were able to get 4 first-round picks, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, and Cole Anthony in the deal for Desmond Bane.
It's interesting to see that Jalen Green, that Houston does make. Obviously, again, you're getting Kevin Durant. You're going to have to give up some of that young talent, and he ends up being the guy. And Jalen Green had a great year this year. Guy that plays every single game, has played every single game the last 2 years. Still very young and developing. Struggled in the postseason, but had a terrific year. And him now teamed with Devin Booker for Phoenix. Be interesting to kind of see what Jalen Green now as that kind of that next step for him in that development. But certainly, a lot of talk about Jabari Smith and those other guys. Like they got so many different young guys, but Jalen Green ends up being the one that they part with, the guy who's about to, and certainly money had something to do with that because he's the one whose salary takes the big jump next season to make it work out. And that's this trade will not be finalized until after the new league year starts. So, because it can't be. And
so on Wednesday, Houston will pick, and it'll be for them.
Houston will pick the 10th overall pick because that's the way the NBA does things. But yeah, I mean, it's be interesting to see that Houston team now with Kevin Durant in the mix with those young guys, and obviously a couple, a guy like Steven Adams, a veteran as well, but a lot of young talent around Kevin Durant.
I know Phoenix wanted, according to reports, Jabari Smith, and instead they got Jalen Green. So I'm not sure if they're really happy with that, but it was the best of what was available. Now, we kept hearing that Toronto was offering more, and Kevin Durant did not want to go to Toronto, and that continued to be a story over the weekend. And I'm thinking to myself, before the trade actually came down, I'm thinking to myself, he doesn't have a no-trade clause. Who cares where he doesn't want to go? If Minnesota wanted to take him, even though he has said he wouldn't sign with them, he told the Suns the 3 teams he wanted to go to, there was no obligation that they had to deal him to that one of those particular teams. You go where you can get the best return. And again, it was speculation, but the Minnesota return was pretty good. People thought it was going to be more than what Houston gave them. And again, that's why some are criticizing Brian Gregory. Hasn't been around that long with Phoenix, the old college coach, and that's the move they make. So we'll see what happens. But Phoenix is also going to try to do you think they're going to actually release Bradley Beal with all the money they owe him?
I have no idea what they will end up doing with him. He will be very difficult to trade. I have no idea what will end up happening. But Durant ends up in a place he wanted to go. Generally, that happens with the big name superstars. They end up controlling where they go.
Yeah, Houston already took the step last year and now take another step for another team that Memphis has to battle in the ultra-competitive West. Speaking of basketball, take your basketball skills to the next level at Shoot 360 Memphis. It's a revolutionary basketball training facility that combines cutting-edge technology with gamification and provides instant objective feedback, hands-on one-on-one expert coaching by coachings from all levels, including a former Memphis Grizzlies assistant coach, Scott Adebato. They have staff members that have been around the game for a long, long time. At the Cordova location, it's a 50,000 square foot facility with 2 NBA regulation size courts, 3 high school size courts, 4 shooting bays with Shoot 360 technology, and now memberships are on a monthly basis. So you can become a member at both locations or either one and do so on a monthly basis. So for more information, you can visit them in Cordova on Big Orange Road or call them at 901-779-3176. In Collierville at 85 Market Street, 901-316-5500. Set up a tour, see what they have to offer, and then sign up for a month. I guarantee you're going to fall in love with it. The future of basketball training is here at Shoot 360 Memphis. We open up hour number 2 talking more about the passing of Fred Smith with the former mayor of Memphis, Jim Strickland. You're tuned into Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Memphis right on the river with Grind City Brewing and all of their great products. Look, this was a dream come true for a father and son duo. And if you have not been to that brewery right on the river, just to the north of downtown, you're really missing something special. And now you can't miss their product. Wherever you go, you see a brand new label. It's clean, it's beautiful, it's distinctive. You'll know Grind City Brewing, and of course you know their products like Poppy's Pills, that great Pilsner, or Tiger Tail, that very creative craft malt liquor. There's the new Thaddeus Amber Lager. That is absolutely a great light beer. There's the India Pale called God Hopper. It's outstanding. And then there's the Belga, the Belgian-style wheat ale. They keep bringing hits at Grind City Brewing.
This traffic report brought to you by Triangle Meat Company, feeding Memphis since 1967. Open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, 4790 Summer Avenue. Trust Triangle Meat Company.
Good morning. It's got a little bit busier in the Midtown area just in the last few minutes with some more volume on 240, especially as you work your way northbound up by Lamar as it gets busier over here coming off Billmore, Parkway 385 on to 240, working your way 240 down past Mill Branch. That seems like it's increased with a little bit more volume in the last few minutes. Weimer's Jewelry, serving Memphis now for over 40 years. Go by and see them this week and shop local at Weimer's Jewelry on Highway 64. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Back to Sports 56 morning. Isn't it lovely morning? On Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers. Once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2 here on Sports 56 Mornings on this Monday, June 23rd, 2025. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, and Elijah Seegers. We're live and local, broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studios. Family Leisure, 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40. Heat advisory already in effect. 80 degrees. We'll get up to 94 today. Sunny skies this morning. Scattered showers and thunderstorms developing during the afternoon. About a 45% chance of precipitation. Then tonight, 76 for your low. A stray shower or thunderstorm is possible at about 15% the chance for precipitation tonight. Hour number 2 of the program is brought to you by the great folks at James Gaddis Jewelers. They are your family's jeweler. Wedding bells are in your future. You need an unforgettable engagement ring from a jeweler you can trust. That's been James Gaddis Jewelers for over 60 years. A huge selection, the best prices. James is a master jeweler and diamondologist. Beautiful jewelry from James Gaddis is always the right choice. Choose from rings to earrings, necklaces to bracelets, and gemstones to watches. Layaway and financing available at James Gaddis Jewelers, 4900 Poplar. Online at GaddisJewelers.com. On Instagram at Gaddis Jewelers. And say I do at James Gaddis Jewelers. Every Monday and Friday they bring you the Memphis Sports Fact. Did you know the Memphis Redbirds wrapped up the first half of the International League season Sunday? They finished 41-32 in the first half of the year. They won 9-0 over Norfolk yesterday. Finished third in the International League West behind Nashville at 43-29 and Indianapolis at 42-32. They'll get the second half of the season rolling starting tomorrow. Again, James Gaddis Jewelers, go visit them in East Memphis. Great folks. 4900 Poplar between Mendenhall and St. Nick, and on the web at gaddisjewelers.com. We continue to mourn the loss of Fred Smith, but we also continue to appreciate the legacy that he has left, what he has built, what he has meant to the city of Memphis, the greatness of Jim Strickland, now as he joins us, the former mayor of the city of Memphis and the dean of the University of Memphis Law School. From one great to another, Jim, I know losing Fred Smith is certainly a heart punch for all of us, but we can't... we got to appreciate what we had, and the legacy will continue with FedEx. But Fred Smith meant so much to so many people, including yourself. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. It's just, I think the entire city, the people who knew him well to the people who didn't know him at all other than through the media and so forth, I think we were all heartbroken by the news this weekend because he's meant so much to our city.
Yeah, I don't. Whether you said that, whether you knew him or not, like in some way, everybody, if you've lived in Memphis at any point, you were impacted by Fred Smith and FedEx. I think because it seems like everything in this city he had some hand in, or they've had some hand in, so many different things.
We all know somebody who works there.
Yeah.
30,000 people in our area work at FedEx. That's amazing. I bet the next highest private employers probably 8,000 or 9,000, and 30,000 work at FedEx. So we all know somebody who worked there, and then we've all been in a building named after FedEx or some nonprofit that FedEx has helped because they touch everything, and it all emanated from this one man. It's just an amazing story from an amazing man.
Yeah, this isn't some billionaire who once finding his riches, ran up to his penthouse of his beautiful castle at the top of the mountain and did not. This guy was so committed to this city, this community, but also committed to everybody worldwide through what he was able to do, revolutionizing the shipping industry. But here, Jim, in this city, as a civic leader, as an entrepreneur, as a real benefactor to the University of Memphis and what he was able to do and has continued to do with that family in giving gifts, financial gifts over the years to the University of Memphis, to his relationship with the Grizzlies and helping bring that NBA team to this city. Because the more things there are in this city to do, the more it appeases the employees who are thinking about coming to Memphis to work for FedEx. So it goes hand in hand. But he didn't just sit back on his laurels.
No, and you just touched. I mean, some of the things. The zoo. He and his wife are big supporters of the zoo, which is one of the top 5 zoos in the country. So, but you're right. He was always thinking, how do we make Memphis more attractive so we can recruit people here to work for FedEx or work for anyone to make our whole city better. He was always 4 and 5 steps ahead of everyone else. That's what I hear about when he was at FedEx. When I have friends who worked at FedEx and they were in meetings with him and they had to present. No matter what topic it was, he was always several steps ahead of everyone else, which we've seen over. How else could he have made such an incredible company unless he was steps ahead? Dating back to when he presented his paper to his Ivy League professor, he was ahead of the professor because the professor didn't give it a very good grade.
I wonder what that professor thinks through the years, about that grade he gave him. Maybe I was a little wrong on that. Maybe I should have given thought better about that. Well, and obviously we focus on the sports scene, but when you look at FedEx Forum and the golf tournament, and you go down and just the pure amount of money
PGA
given to
Tour,
the University
NFL.
of Memphis, everything else, I don't even want to think what the sports scene in this city would be like without him.
Well, I can tell you on a personal level, when we were asking for $350 million to do all these sports stadiums. I sought out his help because no city had ever gotten a cash grant that big. That was a big deal. Now the Titans got $500 million, but that was loans that are going to be paid back. The state didn't want the $350 back, so this was just a cash grant. So he called the governor. I brought some legislative leaders by his office, so he talked to. We got the money, and then a dispute arose about how much the Grizzlies wanted, and I was really stuck because basically it was going to be give the Grizzlies all or most of the money and screw over my university, or not and risk losing the Grizzlies, which we can't do either. So I felt I'm over my head here as mayor. So I called Fred Smith and Pitt Hyde separately, and I just said, I need your help. I didn't know if they were going to talk to Robert Pera, but I met with them and brought them up to date. And a few months later is when Richard and Fred Smith came up and said, hey, we're going to give some money to the university, and let's split off some for the stadium and give the stadium to the university. And I mean, that was music to my ears. I mean, so on both ends of that transaction, getting the money and how to distribute the money, he was key.
Yeah, and that's my point. Again, he didn't make his riches and then you never saw him again. If you needed his help or anybody else needed his help, he was there. He was a phone call away, and you can't always say that about billionaires and entrepreneurs in this day and age, in this world of ours, that they're willing to be able to assist like that. That's how much he cares about this community.
Absolutely. He just was all in. And we don't even know half of all that he was in on, because I hear stories all the time that he did this or he did that. I don't know how he did everything. But he was the smartest, most well-read person I've ever been around. I went to meet with him about every year and a half or so when I was mayor, just to give him an update and then seek his advice. I just cherished those times. And then, when there were specific things going on, the showboats or whatever, I met with him more often. But it was just, he was so impressive, and I learned something every time I was around him. I just enjoyed it so much. And I know everyone who has dealt with him has felt the same way. He was just a remarkable man.
That thing too, because reading about how he didn't want the airport named after him while he was driving. That thing, he didn't do any of this for the press or for the glory of it all. He just did it because he wanted to help out and everything else. So I think makes me think, I'm like, if the way he was, like, with as much as we know that he did, I can't imagine how much behind the scenes he did that we never heard about.
Well, let me tell you about Leftwich Tennis Center. It was a $30 million project. It is a beautiful. If you've never been there, you need to go. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a big tennis player. The city only put $3 million in of that $30 million, so we had to raise the rest of the money. And he gave the biggest contribution, but he didn't want his name on anything. His only demand was that we keep the name Leftwich Tennis, because Leftwich was a colonel in the Vietnam War, and he's lost his life in the war. And we know how much he admires people who serve in the military. That's the only thing. His name is listed in a small list of all the donors on a wall, but it's not. And he could have demanded the whole thing be named after him, but he wanted the exact opposite.
I was speculating a little when we opened the show talking about Fred. I wonder over the years how many times, because I got to believe it's happened, where perhaps he was approached by maybe the mayor of another city or somewhere else that, hey, why don't you bring your headquarters and move them from Memphis somewhere else? Not like a professional sports team or something like that. I always wonder about that, because here's a guy who through thick and thin never wavered. It was in Memphis, it was staying in Memphis, it's here in Memphis, and we're proud of it. But I'm just curious about, gosh, I wonder if there was ever overtures about that.
I've never heard that, but I've heard rumors, but never concrete things. Like Indianapolis wants a bigger presence of the FedEx there, and I'm sure it happened. And but yeah, obviously his heart was always here, and his head, because Memphians help build FedEx. Memphians are the ones who are working in the marketing department and accounting and legal and all that, and we've helped him build that company. That's something for all Memphians to be proud of. That
well said.
We have built a world-class company. Now, he was the head of it and had the vision, but he thought he could get people to live here or homegrown talent to staff that company, and he was right.
I mentioned with the airport, and I guess they're looking to make that happen quickly to name the airport after. But just what is the impact that FedEx has had on that airport? Like, where would that airport be without FedEx?
They pay, in short, we get landing fees for all the planes that land. If we didn't have FedEx, which makes us the number 2 freight airport in the world, and all those landing fees, we would only rely on passenger planes, which pales in comparison. So that really nice redo of the airport, we have FedEx to thank for that. Now we're going to do the front of the house, where you check your bags, and that's going to be just as nice. And it's basically because of FedEx. We have incredible runways, a great airport because of FedEx, and they pay so many of those fees. We have basically a nicer airport than the size of our city would provide because of FedEx.
How many planes of theirs come in on a daily basis?
I used to know that, and I don't. But sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and sometimes my house is over the flight zone, and I don't get mad at all because I thank God that he chose Memphis, and that Little Rock really kind of dropped the ball when it happened, and the folks in Memphis gave some incentives to get him over here, and those incentives have sure paid off.
Another part of his legacy is his family. That's the most important thing. That was the most important thing to him, was his family, and it's a large family. And we know that Richard Smith is now it falls into his hands. A lot of it does. And I remember talking to him last year at the FedEx St. Jude Championship before he went on and was part of the broadcast. But I think we're in good hands as the torch, so to speak, is handed off to Richard.
Absolutely. I had the good fortune that when I was mayor, Richard headed the chamber, their board, for 2 or 3 years, and I got to work with him a lot. And he's an incredible guy too, and you can tell he's learned a lot from his father, and he loves Memphis, and just like his father does. So. I thank goodness that Richard is there. He was a great partner in economic development when I was mayor, and I'm glad he's part of the leadership of FedEx and is involved in this community. And he's the one that, as I understand it, came up with the idea for his dad about how to solve the stadium quandary and get that stadium across the goal line, to use a analogy.
Your tweet yesterday was Fred Smith was the most significant Memphian in history. He benefited our city in every way possible and allowed generations of Memphians to achieve the American dream. God bless Fred Smith. My condolences to the Smith family. I think you hit it out of the park, Jim. That's absolutely the sentiments of a lot of people. And we have a city that, of course, largely put on the map by a guy named Elvis Presley, but I think there's no question with what he has meant to families, to individuals, all those employees, what he's meant to. We just rattled off a bunch of things in the sports world and other walks of life. Fred Smith is a huge loss, and I think indeed the most significant Memphian in history. We can't thank you enough for joining us on the program. Of course, the former mayor of Memphis, Jim Strickland, now the dean of the University of Memphis Law School, so staying busy. Jim, thank you as always. Always appreciate your time.
Thank you both.
Take care.
So that answers my question for brother. 30,000 employees just here in Memphis. That's wow.
I know. What is it worldwide?
I again can't imagine what that number is.
It's crazy because not all the time, but I'll watch a movie or I'll watch some documentary and it'll be about, some city, and then they'll have a drone shot of the city, or they'll have some camera work where they're rolling through the city and I see a FedEx truck like all the time. Obviously around here in this country, everywhere you go, you see it, but internationally, to see FedEx, the name FedEx, a truck with FedEx, a business, right? A FedEx business that's internationally where you walk up just like a FedEx Kinko's type place, but it's ever present, it's significant, and it makes me happy because I know that's Memphis.
Ron texted said FedEx has over 500,000 employees. I don't know if if he looked that up or what, or if he just knows that. But that certainly wouldn't be surprising at all. It always blows my mind in Memphis is like I'll be driving around and like just the number of buildings you see that are FedEx buildings. Like you're like, I wonder what goes on in that building for FedEx. But like I don't know. Like, you just walk around. Oh, there's the FedEx sign on that building. They got something people that work there doing something. It's just that's like just the real estate alone that they have in this town, as well as all the employees and everything else. I mean, unbelievable.
Not counting the offices and buildings that don't have the name FedEx on it, that are a little bit the secrecy. But one thing I don't believe will change is the impact for sports teams here in this area from FedEx. I can't imagine, again, with Richard and the others in charge at FedEx. And we've gone through a different regime here over the last 10, 15 years. A lot of friends that I had at FedEx that are now retired. But I think that the University of Memphis will continue to get that support. The Grizzlies and FedEx Forum and every other entity in the sports world that they're part of, including the great FedEx St. Jude Championship, part of the FedEx Cup, which, again, created by Fred Smith and FedEx. Lawn Solutions is a locally owned weed control fertilization company that serves the greater Memphis area. Brandon Holly and his team of professionals can take care of your lawn. They were over at my house the other day. Locally owned, family-operated business. Call them at 901-867-5626 or go online to lawnsolutionsinc.net. They'll get rid of those weeds. They control the germination of weeds all year long. They're applying what they call post-emergence during the summer months, pre-emergence during the winter months. It's a lot easier to prevent the weeds from popping up than it is to kill them. But look, that's what they do. They can kill them. So if you got the weeds right now, just call them. They'll get rid of them. And again, they'll take care of the lawn all year long. They can take care of any disease your lawn has, any insect infestation, dandelions, crabgrass, grubworms, moles, on and on and on. Things that will do a lot of damage to your lawn. It's Lawn Solutions, 901-867-5626 or online at lawnsolutionsinc.net. You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56, 98.5 FM.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
I think a lot about golf, and when I think golf, I think Miramichi. Did you know Miramichi Golf Course offers membership? It's a great way to play more golf for less out of pocket. Their memberships run for $300 a month plus tax, and that includes unlimited rounds and range balls, no extra card fees, priority tee time booking, and discounts in the pro shop. Oh, by the way, there's no initiation fee. Miramichi green fees, they'll allow you to choose the right rate at the right time on the right day for your needs. If morning tee times are more important, you can book up to 14 days ahead of time to reserve your spot. If rate is more important to you, there are discounted evening rates available that you can choose from. Miramichi is now open on Mondays, and you'll find the lowest rate is on Thursday. Sometimes you just need to escape the hustle and bustle of life. Miramichi Golf Course provides just the right place to solve that need. The name Miramichi means place of happy retreat. When you need a quiet, peaceful round of golf, please make your way to Miramichi.
This is Troy Falvash, owner of Falvash Roofing. In these uncertain economic times, there are so many things as a contractor and a business owner that I cannot control. The rising cost of materials, not to mention fuel and transportation costs. In the last 2 years, shingle prices have almost doubled, and commercial materials have doubled. I don't have to tell you what fuel costs these days. But you know I can't control how much markup I put on a project. I have always prided myself in knowing I never gouge a customer. But in an effort to ensure my crews have work and my customers are being treated fairly, I have lowered my profit margin, hoping to give you a price you can live with and keeping my crews busy. So if you need a roof or gutters, please give us a call. Alex Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or MemphisRoofing.com. 367-0050 or MemphisRoofing.com. 367-0050 or MemphisRoofing.com. Alex Roofing.
It's summer in the Mid-South and deals have never been hotter at Gaza Mitsubishi on the Pike. You'll find 0% for 36 months available on new 2025 Mitsubishi Outlander. Get 2024 Mitsubishi Mirage, car and driver rated #1 best non-hybrid electric fuel economy with 39 combined MPG. Buy Mirage, only $17,675. 2025 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV plug-in hybrid, $299 a month with combined range of 420 miles. Beats Mazda CX-90's warranty and mileage. And 2025 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport, $28,480 or $349 a month. Plus peace of mind with 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. So get to Gossett Mitsubishi, 1870 Covington Pike and 24/7 at MemphisMitsubishi.com.
If you want it, we got it and Gossett Motor Cars.
Is your wife asking you to stop eating junk food?
This traffic report on Sports 56 is brought to you by Palo Windows and Doors of Memphis and the Mid-South Palo Windows. The standard is affordable luxury.
Good morning. It's trying to increase with a little bit more volume in the last few minutes. Coming down the interstate here on 40 westbound at Germantown Parkway down to Sycamore View Road. Coming in from Fayette County has been in decent shape so far this morning on I-40 into Shelby County, 385 Billmore Parkway. Trying to load up with a little bit more volume coming inbound towards 240. Dandelions, crabgrass. Lawn Solutions says, hey, we'll get rid of all this. Make your yard look beautiful this summer. Call Lawn Solutions today at 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Now back to Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers.
Genuine diamonds, baby.
Once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Welcome back, everyone. 8:29 the time. Michael Wallace from Grind City Media joins us at 9:25. We can take your calls and texts on the Sissy's Log Cabin listener lines at 901-360-8255. I talked about this a little bit earlier on Friday. Dr. Ed Scott, the University of Memphis AD, addressed the gathered media at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium to give an update on what's going on with the renovations of the football stadium, but also answered a bunch of other questions. And really, to be honest with you, other than where they stand with the renovations, which look fantastic, things are moving in the right direction financially. That also, of course, goes back to Fred Smith and the Smith family. There's always a connection there. But he was asked about the PAC and the possibility again of moving on to another conference, realignment, things of that nature. Really, there was no news as far as that is concerned. Yes, there's the rumors that are out there, but as Dr. Scott said, there's been no offer. He said, we haven't been offered recently. We were offered the one time last fall. We turned it down. We have not been offered again by the PAC. So there's no offer on the table, nothing I can even talk about. And then as far as the possibility of the Big East, again, just no information, nothing really there. I don't think he's being coy at all. I just don't think there's anything there. He said that we continue to pursue a power conference spot. And that's pretty much where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, it's like until they officially have a TV deal, there's really not much the PAC could do in making an offer. And they tried to make an offer with just by guessing on that, but without a concrete number, there's no use in coming back because it still would be only a projection until that TV deal is actually done.
Exactly. And I thought we were going to hear something last week, but nothing came to fruition. So, again, doesn't mean that they'll announce and then go, oh, yeah, we need to get Memphis in there. But you're right. Nothing can happen until they know what – and it's kind of the it's a dilemma. It's a conundrum, if you will, because you want to get the most money on your media rights deal, your TV rights deal, but you don't have a complete puzzle. You're missing some pieces. So what can you tell those potential media rights partners? And we're talking about multiple, 2, 3, maybe 4. They'll do some live streaming, maybe a lot of live streaming, but I thought we'd hear something last week. We did not. Dr. Scott was also asked about rev sharing. And so that was the first time that he spoke publicly since the House settlement. He said, look, I can't give you figures, but I can tell you that Memphis will be very competitive. And he brought up Kansas. He said we'll be very competitive with Kansas basketball and revenue sharing and much more, because the numbers had come out in a report about Kansas. What was it, $4.5 million to $5.5 million?
I did not see what Kansas.
I thought that's what I saw, and then he specifically, $4.5 to $5.5 million for the men's basketball program at Kansas. This was according to their AD, Travis Goff, who told the Kansas City Star last weekend. So Ed Scott, again, specifically talked about Kansas. If Kansas' number is right, and that's an accurate number, we're very competitive with Kansas in men's basketball. For all those who think we are not competing in men's basketball, I'm here to set the record straight. We have more money in football than we have in basketball. No, they're not going to hit $20.5 million in rev share, which is the ceiling for this first year. But they're going to be, as he said, extremely competitive, especially when you compare it to the other group of 5 schools.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's it would be great if they could afford $20.5 million and be there with the power schools, but that's just not realistic. So you got to do what you can, and obviously their basketball program is they could benefit, certainly you would think, just because of what basketball has been historically and continues to be. While you want to still make sure you're taking care of the football program, but maybe a higher percentage toward basketball here. So again, it's not easy at all, I'm sure, for all of them to figure this all out of where they want to put this and what percentages are going to work the best here. Because again, if you're going to get into a new conference, that's going to be on the shoulders of football. So you got to make sure you keep your football program very much competitive at that level. But you're also, again, you don't want to let the basketball program down here. So there's a lot to be figured out when you're trying to divvy this money up. And again, when you're limited on the amount of money you have to begin with, makes it even more difficult.
He said, the only reason I'm not giving out the number for rev sharing is because it's proprietary. Once I give out the number, people are going to benchmark against us, and I don't need them doing that. That's not what I'm about. As I mentioned, he said, my job is to continue to move us at the front of the group of 6, if you will, and make sure we can continue to compete with the Power 4. And I can say with my team in here confidently, we've been able to do that. Again, they are putting themselves into a position with the hopes that one day there will be more realignment and that they can get to a power conference. That is the ultimate hope. But again, if you turn around and the PAC throws an offer out there after their TV rights deal is complete and announced, and the Big East is interested, those things could happen. But that's, again, so much speculation. Right now, it's the hope that maybe they can follow suit with what's happened to Houston and Cincinnati and UCF and get into the Big 12 or maybe the ACC. So And right now, that doesn't look like it's anytime soon. Because right now, we're talking about the turnover from the previous media rights college football playoff package. Once they iron out a new one, we'll start in 2026. I just don't see any type of movement early. Several years from now, 3, 4, 5 years from now, maybe. But it's not happening in the next year or two as far as that is concerned. The Pac and completing their conference, because they still need a football playing only team for the minimum amount of teams, which is 8. So they still have to do something, but everybody else, they don't have to do anything.
The thing on the stadium, the renovation update, I love the idea now of doing that.
LED?
They're going to have that LED board,
gosh,
basically
yeah.
stretching almost the entire sideline above the plaza area. That'll be a really cool addition to that. That was neat to see that that's now a part of the plan, and that will be a very nice feature.
Yeah, perhaps some updated scores. That would be nice. The LED board is going to look great. The video, if you have not seen it, looks tremendous. The different levels and everything that's going to be happening on the one side. The tunnel, which I alluded to in hour number 1, which will give them an opportunity to host big-time concerts. Chris Brown's coming, I know, the fall. It's kind of a, what do you call it, a test, a dress rehearsal, if you will. But that's pre-tunnel being finished and all that. The phases, again, we originally had the 3 phases. That's been condensed into 2. The budget went up, but they're on target to hit that budget. They've raised $31 of the $50 million for the match of the Smith family. So they're getting there as far as that's concerned. So they're feeling very, very good at where they are. Again, they're running the show. It's theirs now. It's the University of Memphis to run. I think Dr. Scott talked about, they'll lose money right off the bat. There's no question, because we talked about that once they inherited the stadium from the city, that it was a losing prospect, right? You're going to lose money until you start to have events. And he talked about motocross, whatever, all the things you could think of. Concerts, obviously, but other things that they house in those big outdoor stadiums, you will now be able to do because you can get those semis in through the tunnel once the tunnel is constructed. It just looks like it's going to be a win-win for everybody, and hopefully it's a moneymaker in the future for the University of Memphis, because you certainly don't want to have year in, year out losses. You don't need that extra headache to go along with what you're now having to dole out for revenue sharing for NIL and things of that nature. I think, and I'm not sure if this was talked about on Friday, but we've been wondering about the collectives. And somebody, if Dr. Scott didn't say it, it was something that somebody wrote about, that it's going to be conveyed in-house, I think, moving forward. So you won't have those collectives. Everything will come through the University of Memphis now that you can directly pay the athletes.
Yeah, again, at schools that don't have the $20.5 million, it doesn't make sense, really. I mean, you need all of that money to be able to pay out as much as you possibly can in revenue sharing. So having money going to a collective rather than coming to you doesn't make sense for those schools. If you're at the $20.5 million, then yeah, okay, you could. If you still want to give more money, well, yeah, then go through the collectives and they could add on to this $20.5 million. But for places like Memphis, talked about this before, like when you're not at $20.5 million, you're not going to say, no, give that money to the collective. You're going to say, give it to us. We need that money to give out as much as we possibly can to try and get closer to the $20.5 million.
Absolutely. All right, we'll take a timeout. When we come back, another story that kind of got underplayed over the weekend with so many things going on that I want to get to. Also, more on the LSU win at the College Baseball World Series in Omaha, and an unfortunate collapse for one of the fan favorites out there on the PGA Tour. All coming up as we continue here on Sports 56 Mornings, right here on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
just that good. If people could find out the ingredients in Central Barbecue's dry rub, they could reverse engineer it and make their own Central Barbecue dry rub.
Reverse engineer? These aren't state secrets.
They may as well be. This is serious business. Central Barbecue already tells everybody that they slow smoke their meat for a full 24 hours over hickory and pecan, and that there's never any sauce in the pit. They're giving away too much information as it is.
They're not giving away secrets. It's advertising. They're boasting about those things.
You're so naive.
You gotta dip your chicken strips. Hey, this is Keone, and this is Tabitha, and a little thing we love about Chick-fil-A chicken strips and all the different sauces you can dip them in. I like to line up all my favorite sauces so that in every bite I have a different flavor. And with the tenderness of the chicken, the juiciness of it, it's all there. And for me, I like to mix my sauces so I get a little tang, I get a little sweetness all in one bite. That's what makes it for me. That's what does it for me. That's what I'm saying. It's the summer of Chick-fil-A chicken strips and sauces. Order now on the Chick-fil-A app. And guests pay for their testimonials.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director at Lexus in Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
The air, and it's the perfect time to grill, chill, and save with Choates. Install a new generator, tankless water heater, or Carrier HVAC system, and you'll get your choice of a free green egg grill or 36 months no-interest financing. Stay powered during storms, enjoy endless hot water, and slash your cooling costs this summer with the high-efficiency Carrier system, and grill some slow-smoke barbecue on us. But hurry, this special ends soon. And if you're dealing with plumbing or electrical problems, Choates is here for you too. Give us a try and take $60 off your repair. Leaky faucet, clogged drain, broken outlet, lights flickering? Call Choates and save $60 on your plumbing or electrical repair service. Call 347-8086 or visit ChoatesHVAC.com today. And remember, Choates, let our family serve your family.
Now back to Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers.
Diamonds are forever.
Once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
So over the weekend, among the many, many stories from the world of sports, I thought this was really interesting because maybe it's the first of what could be a plethora of lawsuits. But Wisconsin, the University of Wisconsin, is suing the University of Miami for tampering and then poaching Xavier Lewis, football player. Wisconsin claims a Miami coach and prominent alum visited Lucas's home in December when he was not in the transfer portal, was still committed to Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because, again, this is with this new era of everything, there will probably be some lawsuits that have to be decided to set precedent. Wisconsin was blocking Lucas, wouldn't allow him into the transfer portal because of the NIL contract, a 2-year deal he signed with them. So he was asking to be in the portal. They wouldn't allow him into the portal. Miami didn't care if he was in the portal. They said, hell, we'll just get him. So then he just left Wisconsin, unenrolled, and went to Miami. So, yeah, it's there's a lot to be decided in these types of cases to figure out exactly what the precedent would be and what is in future situations, what can be done.
Well, the Memphis situation in basketball with Tyreek Smith, they had already started to pay him because he had been with the team from the summer and then got out of Dodge. Why? Well, I'm sure there was, even though he couldn't play last season, an offer on the table. And to me, once you have committed contractually, unless there was, and again, we never got the full story about whether he got his money or didn't get his money or was any kind of problem. Assuming for a second there wasn't any issues and he was getting paid, because then we had our Hunter story from the Collective saying that he was paid. That's to me, that's a lawsuit right there. But do you want to keep a player that doesn't want to be there? That whole spiel. But I think this opens Pandora's box for lawsuits because tampering has been going on for a long, long time. But a little bit different when a player makes a verbal commitment now in this day and age of the portal and of NIL. This is going to happen a lot. It doesn't matter that they're in the portal. And I think Wisconsin has a great. Now, I don't know if this will ever see the light of day as far as court is concerned, but I think they have a legitimate gripe here. This doesn't seem like it's a sour grapes thing. This seems like, dude, what are you doing? He's our player, and he hasn't even gotten into the portal yet, and you're coming after the guy. The body's not even cold. So I don't know. I think we may see a lot of this moving forward. But I thought that was a very interesting story, kind of under the radar over the weekend.
Yeah, again, I kind of depends what happens with it. If there's nothing, if it ends up being basically ruled that there's not much they could do or whatever or can do, well, then that tells other people they ain't worth trying to file any lawsuits. And I don't know how many universities want to do this anyway. But the Big Ten as a conference is backing Wisconsin in this situation. So yeah, where this leads could set the precedent going forward that if they're able to, they don't say what damages, it's unspecified damages that they're seeking here, but if they're able to get something out of it, well, then certainly others will start looking at this possibly and say, wait, we have good evidence that there was tampering here or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, it's all of these things. Just once again, college sports will have and always will seemingly make lawyers a lot of money.
LSU is your College World Series champions for a second time in 3 years. The LSU baseball team winning their 8th overall World Series title as they knocked off Coastal Carolina in the best 2 of 3 finals, winning 1-0 on Saturday in Game 1. Kate Anderson was unreal, 3-hit shutout with 10 strikeouts. And then Game 2, they hold off Coastal Carolina 5-3 in a game that featured Coastal's coach, Kevin Schnall, being tossed in the bottom of the first inning. And that has legs, that story, because you have the old one side of the story. He was warned, and then by rule, he comes out after the warning and continues on. That's an automatic ejection. And that would also keep you out of the next game, which would have been Game 3 if Coastal Carolina had won. But there was also what was deemed an automatic 2-game suspension, I guess would go into next year, for what they said was bumping a referee, bumping an umpire, which did not happen. The umpire, if you saw this, tripped and fell on his own accord. But the question is, Eli, was it warranted that Schnall should have been tossed from this game? I don't know if it made the difference, but you lose your coach in the first inning. All of a sudden, you're down 5-1 like a drop of a hat. You come back, you battle back to make it 5-3, but you're done. And the season is over for Coastal, and LSU's a champion again.
I certainly don't know all of the exact rules of how, but according to what they say, first of all, arguing balls and strikes has always been, even in the major leagues, is a thing that you're not really allowed to do. And so if he's arguing balls and strikes, and they tell him whatever, they give him the warning, and he continues to do it, and he comes out of the dugout, and that's an automatic ejection, well, then yes, he deserved to be ejected. I'm sure he knows what the rules are on this thing, and if he did that, that's an automatic ejection, well, then there's not much you can argue about it.
Yeah, see, on the surface, that's the way I was going to react to it, was like, wait, by rule, you got the warning, but okay. But there's more to it. Okay, first of all, He screaming from the dugout. He said, "You missed 3 pitches." Okay, but now they're talking about he was cussing at him and all that. So you have 2 different opinions. He said, quote, "I'm not sorry, not for what happened, but that the season is over." He said, "There's 25,000 people there, and I vaguely heard a warning issued. I was an assistant coach for 24 years and treated like a second grade, a second-level citizen. And you can't say a word? Now, as a head coach, I think it is your right to get an explanation of why we got warned." So he was saying that he didn't hear the warning, and he doesn't understand why he got warned anyway, because he didn't cuss him. He said, "You missed 3 pitches." He said, "They're talking to me like I'm a second grader. I'm 48 years old. I shouldn't get shooed by another grown man. So when I come out to ask what the warning is, a grown man shooed me." So at that point, I can now hear him say he's issued a warning for arguing balls and strikes. At that point, I said, "Because you missed 3 at that point, eject it."
Yes. Shouldn't have made that comment. He just told you you've been issued a warning for arguing balls and strikes, and you know after a warning, if you argue any more, you are done. Don't try and make the smart-ass comment.
He said, "If that warrants an ejection, I'm the first one to stand here like a man and apologize. 2 words that define our program are owning it. And what does that mean? You have to own everything that you do without blame, without defending yourself, without excuses." But he's arguing this. He said, "You guys saw the video. There was a guy that came in extremely aggressively. He tripped over the foot." That's the whole. That will not be followed through. The 2-game suspension will not happen because there was no bump. He said the umpire.
Well, there's a 2-game suspension for prolonged arguing without the bump.
Yes, Well, I thought he got ejected from that game and then suspended for 1 game. For the next game.
Well, the 2. Just the fact that he then came out and continued the argument even after the ejection, the prolonged arguing gets you a 2-game suspension.
Okay. He said there was a guy that came in extremely aggressively, tripped over another umpire's foot, embarrassed in front of 25,000 people. He immediately goes 2-game suspension and says bumping the umpire. The umpire immediately does that. There was no bump. He was embarrassed. I shouldn't be held accountable for a grown man's athleticism. Anyway, it's over. It just means more as the SEC wins a 6th straight baseball title. But the streak of it being a different team every year is over as LSU wins for the 2nd time in 3 years.
They've got Jay Johnson comes in, wins 2 championships his first 3 years. Obviously, Skip Burtman has all of the championships from way back when. I mean, that baseball program just continues to be great. The SEC continues to be dominant. I mean, Arkansas probably was you could make the case that if they had been on opposite sides, opposite brackets, the final would have ended up being Arkansas versus LSU, but they were in the same bracket, so only one of them could make it to the final. But it's amazing what the SEC does in baseball on a yearly basis. I mean, just the absolute dominance of that conference in the sport.
Also over the weekend, for the golf fans out there, the Travelers, which was the final signature event of the season, although there is another major still to go, the Open Championship. Tommy Fleetwood, and I said this to Steve Sands, who joined us recently, I said, Tommy, even though Tommy has had a lot of success internationally on the DP Tour, there's something he doesn't have, in my opinion, that he's got a great game, but he doesn't have that killer instinct. And even with a 2-stroke lead on the back 9, as well as he was playing, I didn't think he was going to win. And this was an absolute choke job. An absolute choke job. Now, Keegan Bradley made the great approach on 18 and made the birdie putt. He got it to within, 5 feet? Partisan crowd cheering him on. He wins for the 2nd time in a few years there. So you have a couple stories. You have Tommy Fleetwood choking away what should have been his first PGA Tour win. But you have Keegan Bradley, the bigger story now, because Keegan Bradley, as people know, is the captain of the U.S. Ryder Cup team. The Ryder Cup will take place at Bethpage Black in the fall. And while he's not in the top 6, so he's not an automatic, he's not even in the next 6. But there are guys in front of him that he is much better than, and he is moving up the ladder.
Well, he's in the top 10 now.
Oh, okay. So I was going to ask you that. So he has moved into the top 10. He was asked by Amanda whether or not he would pick himself, and he said, looked in the camera and said, "Go USA." He has been on the record to say he's not going to pick himself. So I was asking you, Elijah, remember on Friday, like, has there ever been a captain who played? And there has been, but you got to go all the way back to Arnold Palmer in '63. But before Arnold, there were a lot of times, I think Hogan, a lot of times when these guys actually played and were still the captain. And now you have so many of these vice captains that I think you're okay. You're in good shape. Keegan Bradley has to be on this team. He's a killer. He's an absolute killer in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, I would think he's now 9th in the standings. I wouldn't think there's any doubt that he should pick himself.
I'm not sure if he will, but 9th, come on, man.
And he's now much more open to it, I think, after getting this win again. But yeah, I mean, for a guy who obviously had the heartbreak of not making the team the last 2 years ago, when many people thought he had earned a spot, to put himself in this position, I absolutely 100% believe he should be picking himself, because he doesn't know in 2 years. If you say, I'm not going to do it because I'm the captain, well, in 2 years, you may not earn a spot, so you don't get. No, I mean, 100% he's right now one of our 12 best guys we could send to the Ryder Cup.
No question. Hey, everybody, it's summer. Come get your new and affordable 26 All-Star Chevy Equinox at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch, financing down to 6.6% for 72 months. New 25 Silverado, $6,500 cash back. Wow. Financing down to 2.9 for 36 months. Go big, get a new Silverado 2500 HD with financing as low as 3.9 for 60 months and not one payment for 90 days, because your good credit deserves it. If you work in law enforcement, first responder, healthcare, military, or a teacher, recent graduate, get an extra $500 bonus on top of all the great deals. They also have all the certified and pre-owns you could want, like a beautiful Corvette Stingray, more Tahoes and Silverados than you'll find in one place anywhere. If you have any vehicle you want to sell, bring it to All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch. Get the most money back for it today. Vacation, road trips, and all your summer fun begin in Olive Branch with our friends at All-Star Chevrolet. So together, let's drive. You can also see all these great rides online at allstarautogroup.com. When we come back, we open up hour 3 talking about the draft, which is upcoming. More on the NBA Finals, more on the passing of Fred Smith. Michael Wallace at 9:25 from Grind City Media. You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
It's time to turn corners and turn heads in your new Gossett Kia from Gossett Kia 1900 Covington Pike. Discover peace of mind in your new Kia with Kia's 10-year 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. How about $5 a day in 2025 Kia K4 LXS, $150 a month. 2025 Kia K5 LXS we Gossett $265 a month. 2025 Sportage $275 a month. And 2025 Kia Telluride S $359 a month. We got some covered for every family and every budget at Gossett Kia on the Pike. All $49.99 with signing, 24-month lease. Ask for Bobby J. He's waiting to put you in your new Kia today. Gossett Kia 1900 Covington Pike online. KiaCovingtonPike.com.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
Good morning, T-Dot. Still out here working with a couple of accidents, trying to build with a little bit more volume coming down the interstate here as we check it out live on 40 westbound at Germantown Parkway. Got all that traffic coming in from Fayette County into Shelby County on I-40 this morning, headed all the way down to Sycamore View Road. Hey, Weimer's Jewelry is your diamond engagement ring headquarters this bridal season. Stop by and see them this week and shop local at Weimer's Jewelry on Highway 64. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Welcome back, everyone. 9:03 the time. Hour 3 here on Sports 56 Mornings on this Monday, June 23rd, 2025. Greg Aston, Eli Savoy, and Elijah Seegers. We're broadcasting live. We're live and local from the Family Leisure Studios. Family Leisure, 2120 Whitten Road, just north of I-40. Currently 80 degrees. We're under a heat advisory. It's going to get up to 94, 95 today. Variable clouds, thunderstorms in the afternoon with morning sun. 40% though, not an all-day affair. 15% chance of a stray shower or thunderstorm tonight with a low of 76, and then continued hot and humid tomorrow. 96 for a high, over 100 degrees as far as the humidity is concerned, or the heat index is concerned, with mostly sunshine, a little bit of clouds, and about a 25% chance of some precipitation. Hour 3 of the program is brought to you by Jenkins Floors and More. If you need carpeting, you need flooring, Jenkins is the place for you. Locally owned and operated, family owned and operated. They sell it wholesale. Skip the middleman and save you lots of money in the process. For all you contractors, do-it-yourself homeowners, just makes sense to get those Portercraft hardwoods or carpeting from Southern Luxury Carpet from Jenkins Floors and More. They're located at 2356 Goodman Road in Horn Lake. They also have a store in Little Rock, Arkansas. You can call them at 662-469-9350. They're open Monday through Saturday. Great family, great service. And remember, if you want Jenkins to do the job for you, they'll get the job done in a 2-week or less turnaround. They'll come to you. They'll give you a free estimate. They'll bring you samples. They'll show you what the carpeting will look like, what the flooring will look like, and then they'll get the job done in 2 weeks or less. Family owned and operated. They do an amazing job. Don't think big box stores. Think of a family-owned and operated local business, and that's what Jenkins is about. Jenkins Floors and More at 2356 Goodman Road in Horn Lake. So we've been obviously talking about the big story, the passing of Fred Smith, and talking about his amazing legacy. We've had former Mayor Jim Strickland join us here on the program to give us his thoughts, and we've listened to you folks as well and have talked about your texts and your thoughts on Fred. Memphis head coach Penny Hardaway on his Instagram on the death of FedEx founder Fred Smith. Fred Smith cared, exclamation point. He was a fearless leader, and his leadership showed daily. I want to personally thank him for what he did for our city and Memphis men's basketball. Again, this goes well beyond Memphis. This goes to everything he did worldwide, on the world globe, right, with the revolutionary shipping industry changes that he made, to have a delivery service deliver to wherever you are on the globe. And then, of course, what he has done as a businessman, as a civic leader, as a corporate citizen of Memphis. His ties to not only the sports entities, but whether it be entertainment, whether it be other businesses, just the leadership of Fred Smith, we all lose with his passing. But FedEx will thrive. They will roll on. His son, Richard Smith, and of course that's his legacy, is his family, an incredible family. He's running the show. And as Penny said, look, you thank him for Memphis men's basketball, but for football, for all sports. You heard Mayor Strickland talk about the Leftwich Tennis Center, that he was a huge part of that. Somebody texted in, and I mentioned earlier, of course, with his ties to the NFL, he was till pretty recently a part owner of the then Redskins, now of course Commanders, and they had FedEx Field where they sponsored with the sponsor of that field in DC, and then also the FedEx Orange Bowl for many, many years they were a big sponsor of. Not to mention internationally with tennis tournaments, with Grand Prix racing and things he's done. Obviously the golf tournament with the FedEx St. Jude Championship, but the whole FedEx Cup is because of Fred Smith and FedEx. Just countless different areas that he has put his stamp on.
Yeah, I mean, just I can't even imagine what the total amount of money spent on various sponsorships of sports, whether it be events, stadiums, obviously FedEx Forum right here, as you mentioned, FedEx Field, just getting the amount of money given to the University of Memphis through the years, everything. Every single person as you know, he made Memphis a way better place on a daily basis through his support of the university, of the city, of everything else. So there's no way to possibly repay him, his family, anything. There's no way, as I said earlier, there's literally no way you could overstate what he has meant to the city of Memphis.
And that was just part of what Penny had to say. I might as well read it in full since I only read part of it. It said, first, I would like to apologize for my late message. I actually typed a message 2 days ago from an airplane, and it didn't send. I want to send my deepest condolences to the Smith family. I asked myself, where would we be if it weren't for Fred Smith? As I pondered the thought, all I could come up with was, I'm so thankful that we did have him. Fred Smith cared. He cared about the people. I want to personally thank him for what he's done for the Memphis men's basketball team. We lost a giant, but an even better human being. He will be missed. Well said, Coach Penny Hardaway. Okay. Wednesday, round one of the NBA draft. Now 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. Michael Wallace, who will join us at 9:25, will be flying to New York tomorrow, Brooklyn to be exact. The Barclays Center will host the draft once again. And now Memphis, all of a sudden, we're excited because they're in the draft. I mean, something I guess could still happen before Wednesday, but more than likely they'll keep that number 16 overall pick, which they received in the Desmond Bain trade from Orlando. And so ESPN has put out their latest projections with analysis on each of these players. And for Memphis at number 16, they have small forward Cedric Coward, who we talked to other people about. You weren't here Friday, but Parker Fleming was on, and he loves Coward. He is a Washington State, although he started in a smaller school, Washington State, and I guess, did he ever play at Duke?
He did not play at Duke.
He did not play at Duke, and he was limited at Washington State because of an injury. But here's what they said about Coward. First of all, they said he worked out for the Grizzlies on Monday. So last Monday, 1-on-0 because he still hasn't progressed yet to 3-on-3 settings. I wonder what that means. He hasn't progressed. Is he injury? Is that what we're talking about here? Just coming back from injury?
I would assume so, yeah.
It's got to be, right? Which just acquired the number 16 pick from Orlando. Coward's also getting long looks from Phoenix, Chicago, San Antonio, and Oklahoma City, with most teams in the 20s operating under the assumption that he'll be gone by that part of the draft. So there could be movement where teams want to get in, move up. So the Grizzlies could be active with that. They said Coward has seen his stock explode over the past month as teams have gotten a closer look at his impressive physical tools, perimeter shooting, defensive potential, creating a better understanding of his late-blooming trajectory. Young senior turns 22 on September 11th. Coward fits a mold every NBA team is seeking with his size and frame and career 38% three-point shooting. He could still have room to improve as he was improbably playing Division III basketball 3 years ago. So, yeah, he's numerically he's not young, but as far as his experience at the top level of college basketball, yes, not a lot of experience. But it's interesting because here's a guy who came from D3, ended up at Washington State, although played limited. And then you have Jalen Wells, who's already on the Grizzlies, who played at a smaller school, Sonoma State, and then went to Washington State. So they could have like back-to-back years where they select a player that has that type of background and both played at the same school.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, obviously, with the way the Jalen Wells pick turned out, to go ahead, if that was the case, and they went and found a guy with the similar type background, you can understand, it might make a little sense to them to do it that way. But yeah, I would be a fan of Coward at that pick. I think that would be a good pick for them. 38% 3-point shooting for a career. That's the number one thing I would be looking for the Grizzlies at this pick is a shooter with decent size on the wing who can defend. And so, yeah, I would love Cedric Coward at that pick.
Minnesota picks right after. They're, again, projecting from ESPN a center. But then at number 18 is Liam McNeely for the Wizards. There's another guy who is a wing shooter, although he didn't shoot the ball particularly well for UConn this past season. But that's a name out there. A lot of bigs, a lot of power forward / centers. Interesting riser is Walter Clayton Jr., because for a while there, he was projected as late first, even second round. And I look at that guy and what he did at Florida to help lead them to a national championship. I just have a feeling he's going to be a really good player in the NBA. And they have him projected to go to Miami at number 20. Danny Wolf's, I think, a really good player, but more a power forward, big guy. Have him projected to go to Atlanta at 22. They got a kid from Real Madrid named Hugo Gonzalez. He's another player that's rising up the ranks. Could be interesting. And Nick Clifford at 23 is a name that's been mentioned with Memphis. Shooting guard from Colorado State. Penciled in right now from ESPN's mock to go to the Pelicans at 23. So it's fun because Memphis is now in the mix, having gained a first-round pick. But I guess the other way to look at it, too, is, well, again, another young player to throw into the mix. But they went out and they got a veteran in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. But there has to be, as you said, other moves, or at least another move, because right now on paper, they're not as good when you lose a guy like Desmond Bane. So I'll be interested to see where they go from here. Then, of course, the free agency period begins. But the draft after number 1 will be very interesting.
And I still would not be surprised at all to see the Grizzlies move down in the first round. Because, again, they are what, in addition to talent acquisition, they're also needing to find a way to clear up money under the cap in order to do the Jaren renegotiate and extend. So I wouldn't be surprised if an opportunity arises that they go back a little bit to save a little bit money on the contract of this first-round draft pick. I think they'll stay in the first round, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is an opportunity for them to move down, 7-8 spots, and it saves them, a couple $1 million a year on that salary, that they would choose that route.
So with the Kevin Durant deal, it just strengthens Houston. And we've talked about Memphis at this moment. Again, we expect things to change, are weakened by the trade. Still a really good trade because they're going to turn those assets into parts that I think will be beneficial moving forward. But right now, it is what it is. But no surprise, Kevin Durant stays in the West. If Giannis does go on the trade block, which I'm not sure he will, but if he does, I can almost guarantee he will end up in the West. So right now, what teams in the West are you looking at that have a really good chance to significantly get better with really the right moves via the draft, free agency, or trades? Who are you looking at now maybe to make that next step? The Lakers have to do something.
Well, the problem, like Lakers are very much hamstrung by where they are salary cap wise. I mean, like a lot of these teams are. I mean, that's the problem. They're just, and with the rules making it even tougher. But there's some of this, like, does Boston end up, what does Boston want to do? And do they end up trading away a couple of those guys to try and save some money themselves? And then you could start getting creative in some trades and things like that. There's a lot of decisions to be made by some teams who are trying to alleviate some of that cap hell and how they're able to go about doing that. And can some of these Western Conference teams step up and maybe get somebody that way? I don't know. Again, Oklahoma City, barring injury with this current roster, and again, I don't know what they'll do with the 2 first-round picks this year. They could very well trade them. Heck, they could theoretically package those together if they want to move up and get one guy. You've got last year's pick already going to be added to the roster anyway. Nobody's catching Oklahoma City. Like, they're going to be the best team in the NBA next year once again, barring injury. They're the clear-cut favorites at this point to win the title. We'll see how much better KD makes Houston. Obviously they had a great year, but went out early in the playoffs. Still a lot of young talent there that's developing, got their feet wet in the playoffs now. But again, KD with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal and Vince wasn't even good enough to finish in the top 10 in the West. Obviously he's a great player. It makes Houston better, but how much better is the question there. But teams like Denver have salary cap issues, Minnesota, big-time salary cap issues.
Phoenix.
Well, Phoenix doesn't really matter.
Right, but right now they have a big problem. It's called Bradley Beal.
So, I mean, it's a lot of it's just really tough. I mean, San Antonio is going to be a lot better. Obviously, they're going to add another really good draft pick, and if Wembanyama stays healthy for the entire season, obviously they're going to be much improved. But how big of a leap can they make? That remains to be seen. I mean, does that mean you're into the play-in? Does that mean they get into the playoffs? Like, what is the next step for San Antonio with a healthy Wembanyama for an entire season and another very high draft pick added to that very young roster?
When you look at salaries like in front of you on paper or in my case on my iPad here, it's just like, how much money they're doling out because we know the salary cap but just to stare at it with your eyes, it leaves me a gasp. Bradley Beal, this upcoming season, is going to make $53.6 million and over $57 million, but non-guaranteed next year. Bradley Beal is a non-factor. Jalen Green in the trade with Houston that was just made for Kevin Durant, Jalen Green makes $33.5 million this upcoming season. Jalen Green, $33.5 million, then 36 and 36 again. It's just, and then of course, Devin Booker, 53, next year, 57, then 61. Holy smokes. That's a lot of coin, man. You look at some of these other guys on teams and you go, okay, man, like, consistent players. Like, what's TJ McConnell make?
I'm not sure what he is making.
What is Caruso's making? What, 20? Just some of these guys seem like they're bargains, like absolute, and they are. And some of these other guys, you go, oh my gosh, you pay them the big time money. Some come through.
McConnell made 9.3 this year. He goes up to 10.2 next year. Eventually goes up to 11.8 down the road in his contract.
That's nothing for what he's giving. Nembhard for this upcoming season for Indiana, $18 million. Obi Toppin, $14 million. Aaron Nesmith, $11 million. Mathurin, $9 million. I know they're on their rookie deals and all that stuff. Walker, who was hurt, $6.6 million. Wow. All right. We'll take a timeout, and then when we come back, Michael Wallace.
Fleet Feet, that's the place to go to get that running gear. If you're getting out there running, walking, any exercising, just on your feet a lot, whatever. You want to make sure you have shoes that are perfect for you, comfortable, and avoid any injuries, any problems, any issues. And that's what they can do for you at Fleet Feet. Take a look at the way you run, the way you walk, where you put the pressure on the different parts of your feet, and they'll get the shoes that are right for you with the right support in the right places. Plus anything else that you need, any other gear that you need, they've got you taken care of. Go see them at Fleet Feet, either in East Memphis in the Laurelwood Shopping Center or out in Collierville, Poplar and Houston Levy, next door to Huey's. 2 locations to serve you with Fleet Feet.
You are listening to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
That's 800-694-1127.
Jason's Deli. When you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises. Just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it. Because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com. So whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
This traffic report brought to you by Triangle Meat Company, feeding Memphis since 1967. Open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, 4790 Summer Avenue. Trust Triangle Meat Company.
Good morning. A little bit more traffic volume in the Midtown area just in the last few minutes on 240 here up by Lamar as it gets heavier. I-40 east across the Hernando de Soto Bridge coming over from Crittenden County, West Memphis. The 55 bridge, same thing. It's starting to build as well. Dandelions, crabgrass, Lawn Solutions says, give them a call today. They'll take care of this. Make your yard look beautiful this summer. That's Lawn Solutions here in Memphis at 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Welcome back, everyone. 9:27 is the time. The draft got excited for Memphis now because of the fact that the Grizzlies are in the first round of the draft. At least for now they are, but they weren't just before that trade for Desmond Bane last weekend. So all of a sudden now for guys like Michael Wallace, who gets to go to the draft at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, it is more exciting than just the 2 second-round picks. And here to talk about that, all things Grizzlies and all things NBA, is our friend Michael Wallace, the senior editor, contributor, and analyst for Grind City Media at Grizzlies.com. You can follow him on Twitter at MyMikeCheck. Michael Wallace, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, Greg. Thanks a lot for having me, guys. I definitely appreciate you guys, and I owe you one, man. I was a no-show, man. Normally, I'm more reliable than being a no-show, but hey, I had to be here for you this week, man, and I'm glad that you circled back to me.
Things happen, Michael. Don't worry about it. Things happen. All right, before we dive into the Grizzlies situation, the trading of Desmond Bane, the draft, and last night's Game 7 of the NBA Finals, I don't know if you ever had a chance to meet Fred Smith directly, but you obviously know of the impact of Fred Smith, and without him, the Grizzlies aren't here, FedEx Forum, all that. I mean, we don't have to continue to regurgitate all the things that he's responsible, because we'd be here all day long. But I wanted to give you a forum here for a couple of minutes, if you wanted to talk a little bit about the passing of an absolute legend.
You guys have been talking about it all day, and the city and the region and the state and the country, frankly, the world has been reacting to this tragic loss over the last couple of days here. And, when you think of, Memphis, you think of, the philanthropic endeavors of guys like Fred Smith and what's going on, Danny Thomas and what's happened, obviously St. Jude and FedEx. I mean, those are the two industries. And those weren't like, just industries that impacted, the city, the state, and the region of the country. I mean, these are institutions that impacted the world. Yeah. And set a standard in business and medicine and treatment. And I'm lumping the two together because, these are things that are impacting the world. And Fred Smith had his hands all over it. And when you talk about someone that did it from here, his family's here, you made a great point at the start of the show. I listened to the first hour before I drove into the office about how I'm assuming because we're in a global marketplace, he could have relocated the business or started that business anywhere. And I'm sure there were a lot of competition, a lot of places that thought that he probably said this is a lot smarter and a lot more financially responsible to go somewhere else and do it and lucrative. And he chose to continue to invest in jobs and in sports and in everything, culture in this city, man. It's a tragic loss, but it's one of those legacies that will live, and I say this forever, in this city. As long as there's a Memphis, there's going to be a Fred Smith legacy here in Memphis and throughout everything that he's touched.
Very, very well said. No doubt about that. Going back to with the Grizzlies, the Desmond Bane trade, did it catch you off guard? What were kind of when this happened?
Everybody traces it back to, Zach Kleiman, Grizzlies president of basketball operations and general manager, being, all cards on the table during the exit interviews. And, he certainly identified that the relationship with Ja Morant is better than it's ever been between the front office and Ja. And, he's a foundational piece. He talked about investing in Jaren Jackson Jr. and keeping him around. And Zach's smart enough. He didn't go that far in terms of guaranteeing that core, the three core will be back together. And the only way to really pivot forward is to sacrifice a piece that's so key in that realm. And Desmond Bane didn't get traded because he didn't work out in Memphis. He got traded, and he was an asset that you can get the most for in this moment. And the fact that this guy was the 30th overall pick, 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and you got 4 first-round picks for him. I mean, like you quadrupled your investment. Like you got back 4 times plus what you invested in him, and that's kudos. The fact that Desmond Bane can warrant a deal like that, and the fact that the Grizzlies have allowed him to develop and saw something in him that will return, that will generate a 4-time or 4-fold return to help you move forward, man. That says a lot about both the Grizzlies and Desmond Bain. He's going into a situation that's going to welcome him with open arms. He's a better fit, holistically there. Young family going to Orlando. Like, what wouldn't you want about that? And the fact that he was already in Florida when he heard about the trade, that was almost symbolic from that standpoint. So, kudos to him. I think this gives the Grizzlies a lot more flexibility to kind of pivot forward. But again, that deal only makes sense, or it really truly only cashes in based on what happens with those assets more so than just that deal in and of itself.
Yeah, I think that was a great point. Desmond Bain did everything right here. He was my favorite player. He was probably a lot of people's favorite player, but it made sense to make this trade. But let's see what happens with the assets. You're exactly right. On paper, I think this is a great trade. Now let's see what they can do. Michael Wallace joining us on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line. Unfortunately, that trade in an indirect way ignited a firestorm with Stephen A. Smith and comments he made, and then Ja Morant getting involved, and eventually Desmond Bain coming to the rescue of the city of Memphis, and the whole thing about free agents not wanting to come to Memphis. It did become a firestorm, and unfortunately took away from what's going on in Memphis as they're trying to put together a more competitive team for 25-26. What was your take on that?
It was a lot of misguided, rhetoric and stuff going around. Like it was an irresponsible statement from the very beginning, because I think was Stephen A. Smith, and I worked with him, when I was at ESPN. He was one of the guys that encouraged me early on in my career when all of us as former newspaper beat writers and columnists were making a transition into this digital space. He was at the forefront of that. And I've considered him a mentor, and when I got to ESPN, well after he got there, he was one of the guys that offered me some advice and encouragement that still lingers with me to this day. The fact that he put me on First Take with he and Skip Bayless when it first started back then, and wow, it's been a while, but it was at the 2012 NBA Finals in Oklahoma City when the Miami Heat was playing Oklahoma City. Yeah, I was on First Take. I had a segment, a couple of them, with them during the finals. So I say all of that with respect, and I think what Stephen A. Smith has become now is a lot more of a blowtorch now, and he says things to rile people up intentionally. But I think it was a little bit misguided because the reason why free agents have been reluctant, and it's a case-by-case scenario, but there is a reluctancy or at least a concern about Memphis as it relates to a lot of things. Crime isn't at the top of that list. Like, I've never heard a player, and I've been around the league 25-plus years now, I've never heard a player say, man, I'm not going to Memphis or I'm not interested in Memphis because of the crime.
Right.
I've never heard that. I never heard it put that way. Now, when you talk about families and when you talk about the stigma of the cities and when players get traded here and some of these other things, yes, that is a concern. A lot of people raise their eyebrow and say, oh, you're going there, make sure you're aware of this, this, and that. So, yes, there is a perception issue when it comes to that. There's a reality issue when it comes to some of that. But to say that that's why a player did not want to come to Memphis as the league, I think that's totally disingenuous. And the reaction was what I expected. I think Memphis has an issue where, not an issue, but, when you come at Memphis, everybody's going to, galvanize and come back at you, right? This city protects its own. They rally for their own. And, you better be straight if you're coming at them because you better not miss. Because if you do, they're coming right back at you. And you saw Paul Young, Ja Morant, Will Barton, former Memphis University of Memphis players, Penny Hardaway. Everybody got on that stick right there and was like, "Hey, we're riding back against it."
Michael, if you're guessing right now, do you expect the Grizzlies to just pick at number 16 in the first round on Wednesday?
Man, every year that Zach Kleiman has been in control of the front office, he's made a trade either leading into the draft, during the draft. He's made trade that's just his thing. He got this trade out of the way early, so I'm almost like inclined to say, you know what, he might hold pat at 16. I still think there's going to be a lot of wheeling and dealing going on over the next couple of days, especially now that the finals are over. If I had to guess, I would say, they go in and they make a trade just because they always do, right? Yeah. I don't have any specific intel, but when you were able to restock those additional 4 first-round picks and you have some pick swaps, you have an awful lot of ammunition to go get in on some deals. So it might not be a situation where, like the Grizzlies right now could be sitting in the offices down the hall planning on making number 16, planning on making that pick. But if there's trades going on and 2 or 3 teams have to be involved, you have to be able to have your phone ready to say, okay, let me put these assets into this deal and let me try to see if I can get in on another team's trade and see what we can bring back. But we certainly know what the Grizzlies need. They don't want to get younger necessarily, but they did replenish these draft picks in this stock in order to have some flexibility to make some more additional trades.
It's interesting with each draft, we always get into the debate, need versus best player available. And I always say, look, if there is this amazing player that's so much better than everybody else when you're picking, then okay, I can understand you picking that player. But for the most part, they're pretty equal. You have to go need. I always say, why would you take a point guard when you have two or three? I'm just using that as an example. When you need a shooting guard that's just as good as that point guard. What are your thoughts on need versus best available?
It's going to be need to me over best available, and you hope that they're close. You hope that they're relatively close. And then, I look at 2 drafts that have played out, especially when the Grizzlies had first-round picks, that played out in completely different kind of ways. And Zach Kleiman wasn't hesitant on being bold and doing something that a lot of people didn't necessarily see coming. You go back to last year, not many people had Zach Edey as a top 10 pick in the draft. I don't think, I was high on Zach from day one, but I don't think, he was projected to go late teens, early 20s, and some people had him even slipping into the second round. But the Grizzlies identified that was a need, and they identified that's who they wanted. And obviously there was the Klingon interest there, and then when Klingon went off the board, Zach Edey was right there as well. So they identified that being a need, and they went at number 9. No matter if he was valued by others to be at 18, they took him at 9 because they believed in him, and that belief cashed in. You know what I mean? We saw how Zach Edey developed over the course of this season. And at the end of the year, for him to be first-team all-rookie, that tells you he should have been a top 10 pick. It went the other way a few years before that was Zaire Williams, right? So Zaire Williams. And, this was a guy that you traded up for to get at number 10. And everyone no one saw him as a number 10 pick at that point. And you had to justify it, and you saw something in him coming off of a COVID-restricted year that a lot of people in the lottery didn't see. And you had a hard time justifying it as it played out. And he didn't end up being a long-term piece for you from that standpoint. So, the Grizzlies do a great job of identifying what they want, who they want, the kind of player that they want, and then they go get them regardless of what that number is on the draft board that it takes to go spend. And it works out a lot. It has worked out a lot more than it hasn't, especially in the first round recently.
What do you believe is the biggest need is some size and shooting on the wing?
You know what? I do. To me, I think the biggest need for me is a big who can rebound, right? Set screens and rebound. And the problem is majority of the guys that fit that mold are 19 and 20 years old coming into the draft. They're young. They're super young. You're going to have to develop them and wait for them and all of those kind of things. And even with Zach Edey, like this was before Zach Edey got hurt, I thought that they needed another athletic guy that they can throw in with some size, 6'10", who can rebound, set screens, and rim run. And, they don't have a lot of that. You know what I mean? Like, you almost need to reset where Brandon Clark is, and you got to get younger there because you don't know where Brandon Clark is going to be coming back from 2 years or almost 3 years of lower leg injuries, lower extremity injuries at this stage of his career. So I thought that was the biggest need, someone you can now plug and play while Zach Edey recovers, who can play alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. and be a tough guy that can grab rebounds, block shots, and set screens. I think that's primarily what the biggest need is, and that's just me. And then secondarily, you get another wing right there to kind of replace Desmond Bane. I do think you get really young there. I think Vince Williams will bounce back and have a better year than he had last year because of the injuries. Jalen Wells would definitely be a guy that you're going to factor in at that position as well. And then we'll see what Gigi is. Like, this is a make or break off season and going into next season for Gigi. Either he's going to be an NBA player or he's not, and I think he'll be determining that this year. But that's another guy on the wing that you have 3 dynamic wings, 3 or 4 right there, but you can also add some more.
Because my thing is, I look at if you obviously know Bane is gone, we're under the assumption that Luke Kennard will not be back. I mean, for a team that's not a great shooting team and you lose two of the best shooters in the NBA, you better replace some of that.
Yeah, you should. And again, the question is, is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the $20 million question was it an outlier last year where it didn't work out in Orlando? Or is this the sign of a trend where he's sort of, trending downward, as he reaches his mid-30s, right? He's 32, 33 years old coming into this season. He's already had 2 championship runs, with Denver and the Lakers. He wasn't what Orlando signed him to be last year. Can he recapture that in Memphis? And that's a big-time question. So, he's another guy that, on paper, he looks like he can help you at least defensively and also knock down shots. Jalen Wells can certainly hit shots from that standpoint. But yes, you do need – Jaren Jackson is capable of shooting threes from out there. Depending on what you do with Santi, you have a capable three-point shooter. But, yeah, from the wing, like the big guard spot, you definitely need another guy that can go out there and knock down some shots.
Of course, they're all chasing OKC. Final thing for you, Thunder get it done last night. The Halliburton injury, just horrible, heartbreaking, and I don't know, it's very, very weird that we got the Tatum, the Dame, and the Halliburton Achilles injuries all wear number 0. I don't know, they're just freaky when I see something like that. But the bottom line is this, Indiana played their hearts out, Michael, as you know, you watched. Do you think that game would have went right down to the wire if Halliburton hadn't gotten hurt, or would Oklahoma City have still done what they did to them in the third quarter as they started to make shots, they started to force turnovers as well?
Yeah, I think especially with the way Halliburton was playing at the very beginning, like he had the best start to a first quarter that he's had in the series. I mean, knocking down 3 threes. Remember, he was struggling with that shot in this series, and he had his pace going, and it was just unfortunate, man, to see it happen that way. I still think Oklahoma City would have prevailed. I think it would have been close. And credit Indiana because they won the first half, they won the fourth quarter. They just came unglued in that third quarter. Yep. And even in that third quarter, T.J. McConnell played lights out, right? They just couldn't get help from anyone else. And we didn't see Obi Toppin step up. We didn't see Miles Turner step through. We didn't see Nembhard, and Neesmith do what they didn't give them much of anything during that time period. It was basically T.J. McConnell, from that, and Pascal Siakam, and they couldn't get much else going. But I think the team that should have won the series won the series. And I'm glad that they were forced to extend themselves. And kudos to to Indiana for doing that. Yeah. What I will say is this, though. I didn't notice until you just said it. All 3 of those guys wore the number 0 this year. And that's kind of freakish right there. You talk about all those guys. But I will say this, though. Last thing on that. I think now that we've seen this happen all in a short span of the playoffs, I think these medical teams now, when you get that calf strain, that has to be a no-brainer. You got to sit a guy out.
Yes, good point.
You have to.
Good point.
You can't let a player dictate his way in. Because if you confirm that somebody has a fractured leg, you're not going to say, go ahead out there because you can't do anything worse but just break it, right?
Right.
Like, we've seen this not go well 4 times. True. I was in the building in Toronto when Kevin Durant blew out his, when everyone knew it was going to happen at some point. It was just a miracle that Halliburton was able to get through Game 6 without it happening. But for that to happen the way it did in Game 7, you got to protect these players from themselves at that stage. I get it. But, nah, man, that's got to be I don't want to say medical malpractice, but if you know this and this is an imminent danger type injury, you cannot let the player go out there and do that under no circumstances from that standpoint.
Quick answer to this question. Do you know who's going to be on stage for the Grizzlies and then who's going to be behind closed doors?
Let me see for the. Oh no, that's for the lottery. Usually they do that for the lottery.
Oh, what the hell am I thinking? Who's
on stage is the guy they pick.
That's right.
If he's in the building.
That's right. What am I thinking?
The person on stage is going to be whoever's picked that number 16. That's who's going to be.
That's right.
As long as he got the invite.
I don't know what the hell I was thinking. We know Michael Wallace will be there.
Is with the thing? Do you think Jalen Wells may consider changing his number for next year?
Ooh, I hope not, because he had a season-ending thing too. I hope that doesn't
that's true. I guess his wasn't as serious, but he also had a serious season-ending injury.
And all in the Eastern Conference, man. Not that you wish any kind of injuries on anybody from the West, but my gosh, 3 very prominent studs all hurt in the Eastern Conference. Well, Wednesday, round one. Thursday, round two. Grizzlies right now with 3 picks, 1 in the first, 2 in the second. Michael Wallace will be there in Brooklyn. Have some good pizza while you're there in New York. I'm envious. He's the senior editor, contributor, and analyst for Grind City Media at Grizzlies.com. You can follow him on Twitter at MyMikeCheck. Safe travels, Michael. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Y'all take care.
You too. I'm jealous. Going to Brooklyn. Corky's Ribs and Barbecue. That's great. Look, we love our barbecue here. I love my pizza in New York, but Corky's, man, outstanding. As is all really the barbecue places in Memphis. We are the capital of barbecue, no matter what they want to tell you. You get out a third of a rack of ribs for just $7.99 when you purchase an entree at Corky's for lunch or for dinner. Lunch specials every day and party packs that start at just $7.49. They have been catering for 40 years. They've been around for 40 years, meaning they've catered the entire time. You got an event coming up, you want it catered, they'll start you out as low as $7.99 per person. Located on Poplar Avenue in Memphis, Poplar Avenue in Collierville, Germantown Parkway in Cordova, and Goodman Road in Olive Branch. They also have a private party room at both the Cordova and Olive Branch locations. So if you have something coming up, whether it be a family, maybe a family reunion, a graduation, a birthday party, an anniversary celebration, reserve their private party room. Again, in Cordova or in Olive Branch, just contact them to find out what is available. Corky's Ribs and Barbecue. They're open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ. We bring it naturally, simple, right? Not so fast. The air you breathe could be hazardous to your health. Not hazardous. The air from football to the Memphis Mold Inspector. We only license motorcycles in the Mid-South. Call the Memphis Mold Inspector to check the air quality inside your home or office. Call 909-292-7788.
It's time to turn corners and turn heads in your new Gossett Kia from Gossett Kia, 1900 Covington Pike. Discover peace of mind in your new Kia with Kia's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. How about $5 a day in 2025 Kia K4 LXS, $150 a month. 2025 Kia K5 LXS, we Gossett $265 a month. 2025 Sportage, $275 a month. And 2025 Kia Telluride S, $359 a month. We Gossett covered for every family and every budget at Gossett Kia on the Pike. All $49.99 new signing, 24-month lease. Ask for Bobby J. He's waiting to put you in your new Kia today. Gossett Kia, 1900 Covington Pike, online, KiaCovingtonPike.com.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
This is Sheldon Rosengarten with Mark's Pet Store Realtors. I'm often called Sheldon because I sell homes and work with buyers and I get the job done. There are 7 keys to successfully selling your home quickly at a great price. First, call me. I do my research and advise you on preparation, presentation, and proper pricing that gets you the activity to get the best price. Follow my advice and it can happen. I did mention 7 keys to a successful sale, didn't I? Well, if you use the first key, calling or emailing me, you really don't need the next 6 keys. Remember that Sheldon Rosengarten at 483-0546 or MemphisRelocate.com. If you don't need me now, write it down for later or for a friend. That's Sheldon at 483-0546 at MemphisRelocate.com. Do it now, and who knows, you may hear your home advertised here. Remember, as bad a golfer as I am, when selling homes, Sheldon gets it done.
Wally Hatchet serves breakfast all day and Southern comfort food for lunch. Hatchet fans love our huge omelet, breakfast Sammys, scrambles, and chicken and waffles. For lunch, check out the Mississippi pot roast, chicken fried steak, grilled meatloaf, one of our best-selling burgers, lipstick on a cow. Pickup, delivery, and catering are also available. Visit WallyHatchets.com to order online. Wally Hatchett's is located at 6439 Summer Avenue and open from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday. Wally Hatchett's. Count your blessings, not your calories.
You know, you wonder how the Tatum, Dame Lillard, and Halliburton injuries will affect how those three teams, the Celtics, the Bucks, and the Pacers, either draft or go after free agents. We already know Boston's trying to shed salary and may make a move here, make a move there, but you know that those three guys with modern medicine, and you would think they'll be able to come back. Guys have come back from Achilles injuries. We talked about Kevin Durant earlier, but do you do something drastic for the upcoming 25-26 season, or do you kind of lay low and see what falls into their hands and don't do too much to overemphasize the 1 year, make a big commitment when you know those guys would be back in the fold? I wonder how you attack that.
That's the design, especially for a team like Boston. I mean, you're paying a massive luxury tax bill. If you don't, if you believe, I guess your roster is still good enough without Jason Tatum, and you're willing and say, all right, we still think we have a chance to win a title, so we're willing to pay this bill, or say, without Tatum for a year, probably not going to be able to be good enough, so we need to do some saving of money.
Do they give you an injury exception? Like, can you get an injury exception in the NBA? Like, where they would say, look, man, the dude's out for the whole year. We're not going to have this go against your cap. And you could bring in somebody else? No,
not against the cap. No. I mean, I'm sure there's some things they might get from insurance or something. I have no idea how all that works, but no, I mean, his salary's on the cap, no matter injured or not. So, again, they've got so many issues. So, Drew Holiday's name has come up. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways they could go.
Derek White.
We'll see. And I mean, for a team like Indiana, certainly they're going to have to look at finding another point guard, at least. I mean, whoever that might be. I mean, I don't, maybe they start McConnell, and then you still need somebody off the bench. But I don't know if that's the route they would like. I don't know if they want T.J. McConnell as their starting point guard. So they'll have to look at that and try and figure out just at that position what they want to do. If indeed, which again would be all likelihood that he is out for the entire season next year.
Yeah. Some highlights from Major League Baseball over the weekend. Shohei Ohtani yesterday, second start with the Dodgers. Once again, he only throws the one inning, but looked pretty impressive. 2 strikeouts of the 3 batters he got out. Threw 18 pitches, 12 for strikes, and then threw in a triple and a home run to boot. Shohei doing Shohei things.
He's pretty good.
Cal Raleigh hit 4 home runs in 3 games versus your Cubs. The Mariners catcher is now up to 31 dingers.
Yeah, the Cubs struggled to get him out. He's a problem, and he was a real problem for the Cubs. It was like batting practice. So yeah, that was did not work out well for the Cubs. They got to come up with a new pitching strategy against Cal Raleigh.
Well, Donovan Solano hit a couple of home runs against the Cubs. Solano, that name may ring a bell to Redbirds fans. Played for the Redbirds back in the O's. Played 3 years. Donovan Solano's been around for a while. He hit 2 home runs. They also have another former Redbird on the roster in Randy Arozarena. And then one final thing. We talked about the collapse of Tommy Fleetwood at the Travelers. I thought that was a stand-up guy who, after the collapse, a chance to win his first PGA Tour event, faces the music, answers all the media's questions. His quote, "I'm upset now, I'm angry, it hurts," and yet would go on to answer every single question. When you have guys now like Rory McIlroy and Colin Morikawa basically saying it's not their responsibility, they don't have to do that, and they don't. But I say, again, why Tommy Fleetwood is as beloved as he is. And it was tough to go up against Keegan Bradley on Keegan's turf. But I think there's going to be a lot of people from here on out, if they haven't already started rooting for Tommy Fleetwood to finally get it done.
Yeah, seems like a really nice guy, first-class dude that, he's gotten, he's won on the World Tour, but just can't seem to figure out a way to get that first win here on the PGA Tour. But he's a world-class player, so you think at some point it's going to happen for him.
John Taunty tweeting out that CBS Sports is extending its partnership with the new look Pac-12. So we know that one of their partners will be CBS Sports. Again, more information on their media rights package, I would imagine, will be coming very, very soon. Again, our condolences to the family, the friends, and, of course, all those workers of FedEx after the passing of the great Fred Smith. I want to thank the former mayor of Memphis, the dean of the University of Memphis Law School, Jim Strickland, for joining us on the show, and, of course, Michael Wallace from Grind City Media. We're back tomorrow, starting bright and early at 7 a.m. We've got a lot of things planned for tomorrow. Don't forget Humdinger's Trivia will come your way on Tuesday. We'll talk some golf as well with Nikki Barker from the city of Memphis. Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 is coming up next. Once again, Brian Dacus and Elijah Seegers will be pinch hitting for Wolo. For Eli Savoy and for Elijah Seegers, I'm Greg Gaston. Enjoy your Monday, everybody.